Conversation.
I'm joking.
Hello and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
Oh, there's two of us. Hi, I'm Gibbon.
Yeah, I was waiting for
returning
you.
once again, and my lovely co-host this episode is.
Oh, hi, I'm Courtney, also known as Altermentality or Alter, but you can just call me Courtney. That's fine.
Yes, welcome to the show, Courtney. This is your first, in-studio appearance on the Kongversation.
Yeah, I've called in a time or two before.
Yeah, and we've been talking about getting you on for a couple of years now, and for various reasons, my fault, it's never quite happened, even though...
I know the rabbits are intimidating, I know they can be a little off-putting, but it's worth it, I promise.
I have been playing it. I've been playing it. I had to take a break because of Saberwolf becoming DKU, but I have been playing that, and I've been taking notes, and I'm like, I want to do it right, and it has to be a 2-part episode now, and it's intimidating, but we are going to do that one. But no, I brought you in here, as well as you, Gibbon, because it is Women's History Month. And, why not do an episode about the women of the Donkey Kong universe? Because this is a fertile, robust topic. Because look at all of the characters we have to discuss in this. And I wanted to do it right. Yeah, I wanted to do it right, and I'll explain why it's taken this long, and why it's taken until season 10 to do it in just a bit. First, I wanted to get to some due diligence. Really quick, I just wanted to plug once again our Twitch channel. If you have not subscribed to us on Twitch, if you haven't checked out our Twitch channel at all, you should do so, because we stream every week. We stream Sea of Thieves on Sunday. If you don't know anything about Sea of Thieves, if you haven't played it, but you're curious, it's a good way to kind of get the gist of what's happening at the moment in the game. And, it's usually me, usually Cameron, usually Jeff, and usually a rotating fourth person. Sometimes we mix that up, but yeah, every Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. Generally 4 p.m. Over in the UK, depending on how daylight savings time is looking, the British summertime. But then we've got the Idaho Crew streaming on Tuesdays. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. Wednesday over in the UK. But that is our friends Adam and Andrew and Dustin, and sometimes Tate. They are forum moderators and friends of DK Vine, and they all live together in Idaho in some sort of wacky communal living situation. And they stream Donkey Kong universe related games every Tuesday. And sometimes they surprise me, and sometimes they infuriate me with the way they use the bloaters in Saberwolf, as they did last Tuesday. That's not how you're supposed to use them. Whatever. It worked for them, I guess. Eventually. It was too painful to look. And then, Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. over in the UK, I stream DK Vine Done Slow. And that is me doing a playthrough of a DKU game and taking a very, very long time to complete it, because I'm pointing out all the little details. And sometimes I'm struggling with things I haven't played in many years or barely at all. But, it's the anti-speed run. It is, no, we're going to stop here and we're going to savor this beehive in Donkey Kong Country 2. And I'm going to explain to you why this is vitally important to the lore. So...
You gotta stop and lick the honey,
Yeah.
Stop and lick the honey off the walls.
We'll talk about licking the honey in a little bit as well. But anyway, DK Vine on Twitch. Check us out if you like the DKU. You like Rare, you like Platonic, you'll find something to like. And if you can't watch us live, the VODs are up for 2 weeks, and I put most of them up on YouTube after the fact, so you can check it out there. Courtney, would you like to talk about some of your wares at the moment, being that you're on the Kongversation? What's going on in the world of Altermentality?
Sure. Okay. So, I guess some people listening to this might have seen me around. I don't really post on the DK Vine forums that much anymore, but I used to years ago. And, I've been a rare fan artist for a really long time. So I've got my Twitter where I post art. Mainly these days I work on my webcomic, which I have a webcomic with my partner. It's called The Fourth, and it's been around for 10 years now, but it's gone through various, states of hiatus and stuff as we became older adults who have to deal with stressful jobs and, adult boring stuff. But right now we have a comic going that's like a side story, so you can jump right in. And it's going to be sort of shorter. It's in the middle of it right now. We have about 40 pages, and it's something that you can just jump right into and approach, even if you haven't read the rest of the comic. And it's about
very
pirates.
Good.
Thank you. But I think if, people like the general tone of the DKU, that's sort of my main inspiration. So if you like cartoon animal pirates and also like magic and zombies and stuff, it's there for you. It's called Heir of Silver Skull, and it's at thefourthcomic.com. You can just click on Start of Chapter, and it'll just take you to the beginning of that story, and you can just read it. I do think a lot of people who are fans of like Donkey Kong Country and Banjo-Kazooie would enjoy it, so I'm just going to plug that.
And the art is beautiful.
Why, thank you. Yeah, this is pretty much a solo project for me. I do the art and the writing, and my partner is just kind of helping me with like editing and stuff. So that's what I spend most of my time on. As you can imagine, it's a pretty big time sink. But I do stream also. I can't remember if we were recording yet, but I did say earlier it's very irregularly scheduled right now, but I stream when I can. I just kind of stream whatever I feel like at my Twitch account, which is also Altermentality. So I stream a lot of Xbox Game Pass games these days, just like trying out a bunch of new stuff. And I wanted to get to some more rare games this year that I hadn't played. So I've got some like Cameo and It's Mr. Pants that, there's Perfect Dark. There's a lot of rare games that I haven't played actually, especially stuff that's non-DKU. So that's some things I want to try to get to in the coming months.
But you also
I think that's quite enough.
You also stream Grab by the Ghoulies every Halloween.
Oh, every Halloween. And yeah, every December I also do a one-sitting 101% playthrough of DK64. During the Game Awards.
Oh my god.
It takes about 15 hours usually. It's fun though.
The holidays are stressful enough. Why would you do that to yourself?
Oh, it was so funny. So the last time I was doing it, you know how raids work on Twitch. Like people can send all their viewers to someone else.
Right.
So I have a friend who's like a much bigger streamer than me. And, he raided me like at the very end of my stream. So I was in the final battle with K. Rool and I got just like 1,000 viewers and, it was like right before the tiny part of the battle. So I was like, all these people came in and I was like, hi, you're here to see K. Rool's wiggly toes and his stinky shoes. Like, I'm so sorry you came in at like the most awkward time in the world. Like, I can't explain this. It just is what it is.
The wiggly toes that don't even match his established feet in other games.
He's got a prosthetic toe.
They have to be robotic prosthetic toes. And I know Gibbon, she's rolling her eyes at me right now, but look, I'm going to do an episode about K. Rool's feet, about his toes, and we're going to get to the bottom.
You can have me on that one.
Okay, we're going to get to the bottom.
I'm going to pencil that in the show notes right now. You're just going to be stuck.
All the people asking for the Donkey Kong Adventure episode, they're just pulling out their hair, assuming they have any, because they know now it's going to be delayed even further because we have to get to K. Rool's wiggly toes.
Oh no, this is coming after the. You're not getting out of it that easy.
Oh, well, thank you both for being here. And why has it taken so long to do an episode exclusively about the women of the Donkey Kong universe? We've obviously talked about them individually over the years, but why, when Women's History Month rolls around, why haven't we done this topic? And, well, I'll be frank with you, or some feminine name that's not Frank.
Francine.
I'll be Francine with you. I didn't want to, I was afraid of coming across like I was mansplaining the Donkey Kong universe. Like, all right, let me tell you why Dixie Kong is important, coming as a cisgendered man. Like, it just, like, I wanted to avoid that tone to it, because yes, I do fancy myself an expert for the Donkey Kong universe, but even then, that kind of expert, like, let me tell you what I know about this, can come across kind of wrong, especially about a specific topic. So I wanted to do it right. And DK Vine forum member Twilight Vestige actually suggested this episode a couple of weeks back. And I guess that was the impetus I needed, seeing that there was demand for it. And I was like, all right, we'll do it, and we'll do it right. But I wanted to have like a panel of hosts rather than it just being my voice dominating, as I often do. So yeah, that's basically why it's taking till season 10. I just needed a little push and a little bit of confidence, and I needed the right co-host. So welcome the both of you. And
I guess quickly on that note, since I get someone asking about it after every time I've been on the conversation recently, is yes, Hyle will be referring to me as she, because I have been transitioning for over a year.
Yes.
So that's why I'm on this episode.
Well, I mean, yes. But yes, so here we are. And I mean, I think the best way to do this is just to jump into it and start at the pinnacle. The character I think we all want to discuss, probably the universal fan favorite, Dixie Kong, because Dixie, she's just so hugely important, not just for the Donkey Kong series, not just for the Donkey Kong universe, not just for Rare, not just for Nintendo, but in my opinion, she's important for gaming. And I don't think she gets the credit she so rightly deserves, considering how easy it is to trip up, especially the time period she was created, how easy it would be to screw her up, and how relatively flawless she's been since she first debuted in 1995.
This is true. She's just a really good character. And I know it's easy to sort of take a surface view look at her and just go, hey, that's Diddy in pink with a ponytail.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, objectively speaking, that's probably true. Like, they probably just used the same base asset and put some different clothes on it and stuff.
I mean, it's not as egregious as this is Donkey Kong in sunglasses, or this is Donkey Kong in a cheesy 70s jacket.
Yeah.
Like,
Donkey Kong with an afro.
Luigi just started out as like Green Mario, so you know.
Like literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's I understand people who aren't as invested in these games as we are, taking a look at Dixie Kong and just kind of tossing her in the Miss Male character bin with like Miss Pac-Man and stuff. But I think that's a massive disservice to the character, because, as you said, she's her own thing. She has agency. She's objectively better to play as. There was a wonderful video from a channel whose name suddenly escapes me, analyzing Donkey Kong Country 3 recently.
Transparency, right?
Yes, Transparency. And they get into a lot of Dixie's agency and sort of the tropey expectations placed on her by the men in her life, and how she just kind of says, well, screw that, and is the star of the show anyway. And yeah.
Like,
I don't know, I'm rambling.
No, I mean, that, for me, like, Dixie, and I've seen, the accusations that she is just pink Diddy Kong. But I think if you are a fan of this series, or if you're invested in just the slightest, if you have played the games or read the literature surrounding them, pay attention to any of her depictions. You'll know she's not just Miss Pac-Man but with fur. She's such an interesting character to me because, I mean, both Donkey, Diddy, and Dixie Kong, they're all very different characters. But, Dixie, what fascinates me is she is the purest adventurer of the three of them, whereas she lives for the thrill of the adventure rather than the recognition or reward that comes with it. I mean, yes, she was seeking out to find the whereabouts of Donkey and Diddy in Donkey Kong Country 3, but she gets just joy out of it. Like, she accompanied Diddy in Donkey Kong Country 2 to help him out, but also it was just an excuse to go on an adventure, which she loves. Yeah. When the snowman...
I was just going to say that in DKC2, there's this through line of Diddy trying to prove himself. Like, not only is he trying to rescue DK, but he wants to prove himself as a video game hero. And, he's trying to collect all the hero tokens to prove to Cranky that he's actually a hero and whatever. But, like, Dixie just doesn't seem concerned with that aspect at all. It's all about, like, Diddy proving it, but she doesn't care about that sort of, like, she doesn't want to have to, like, prove herself to all these people who don't think she's good enough or whatever. She's just gonna let her actions speak for it, and she just wants to experience it for the, like you said, for the sake of it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say she doesn't care, it's just more that she already has that confidence.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, she arguably has the same sort of hero quest in DKC3 that Diddy has. She's also collecting the giant gold DK coins in her game, but less of a big deal is made out of it because she doesn't really care if she becomes a video game hero by some sort of decree by Cranky Kong or whomever. She doesn't care about any of that shit. she's just doing it. And I also want to point out, and I pointed this out before, the thing I love about the opening to Tropical Freeze is how perfectly it nails the depictions of the four Kongs, the four original playable Kongs in the game. Because, Donkey and Diddy look concerned when the snowmads are coming in. Cranky has this air of knowledge, like he knows exactly who they are, and he knows what they're about. Dixie is the only one who looks happy that shit is going sideways, that she's like, oh, this is terrible, but we get to go on an adventure. And I think that just perfectly sums her up. And I love that the way and this, DK Vine staffer Cameron Regal always points this out about Dixie's relationship to Diddy, is that it's almost incidental that they are girlfriend and boyfriend, right? It's not a defining characteristic of Dixie Kong. It was her introduction into the series. Oh, and who is this? Well, this is Diddy's girlfriend. Okay. But their relationship is never the focal point of Dixie Kong. It's just like, oh yeah, they're together. And that's all you need to know.
It's like so relatively unknown that like a lot of people just don't know it. And like, in fact, there are some people online, unfortunately, who think that just because all the Kong's name is Kong, that they're all like actually related. And so, if you put Diddy and Dixie in a relationship, that's weird, but it's not even like really that much of a known thing outside of the like core DK fandom that they are dating.
Right. I mean, if you played one Donkey Kong Country bit, you should know that they're not related. Like, they're not all related biologically. But yeah, I mean, it is just like this just casual thing that doesn't define either one of them. But that's especially important for Dixie in that she's never the damsel in distress. She's never, I think, Courtney, you said here in the notes, that she's the only Kong to have been introduced as a playable character and not have been kidnapped herself.
Ooh, that's a really
Kitty,
good
who's
point.
just never come back.
Well,
so
yeah,
I don't
ignoring.
think it's fair to count him.
No, we'll ignore Kitty. Yeah.
Sorry, Kitty.
The only video game hero, the only bona fide video game hero by virtue of Cranky Kong's metrics that has never been kidnapped. Cranky was kidnapped in Donkey Kong Jr., obviously. Donkey in DKC2/DKL2. Diddy, DKC3, and arguably Donkey Kong 64. So yeah, I mean, they've averted that trope of Peach and Daisy and that Pauline, basically the entire Mario cast of women. Rosalina, I guess, was Rosalina ever kidnapped?
Not really.
I think so.
Okay.
She was in distress, but she was not kidnapped.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You can be in distress. That's fine. And you can be kidnapped too. I'm not saying like that's necessarily.
There's literally a damsel in distress.
It's just nice that that's really never been a focal point of Donkey Kong, the damsel in distress. There's been the dudes in distress plenty of times, but yeah, it's what immediately like endeared me to DKC 2 as a kid was that kind of flipping that conventional wisdom on its head, where the kidnapped person is the big burly buff dude and you have to rescue him. These two kids. Very refreshing.
Is, traditional in the Donkey Kong series, dating all the way back to the arcades.
True. Yes, I know.
Which
but
is why it's hilarious to listen to Cranky complain about Donkey Kong getting kidnapped and how that had never happened back in his day, cough, cough.
Right, and so many people think that's just a continuity error, and it's like, no, that was an intentional bit of dialogue. They're being funny. These games can be funny.
It's called nuance.
It's not only is it like a meta joke, but it's just in character for Cranky to either not bring that up and hope nobody's going to notice.
Well, just not talk about that. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
No one remembers that. Anything about the original DK arcade where I was cool and throwing barrels.
Yeah.
But speaking of Cranky, he actually brings, I think, what a lot of industry folk, definitely marketing executives, thought about Dixie into the game's dialogue, where he has I actually used this quote to promote this episode, on social media, where he says, let me pull it up. He says, when you enter the Monkey Museum, I think either as Dixie by herself or with Dixie in the lead, girl heroes in video games, I can't believe it. The main character should be really muscle bound and carry a gun, not twirl their hair around. Which is just a funny bit of dialogue just to see in a Nintendo game in general. But Cranky obviously being this amalgamation of like boomer sensibilities has issue with Dixie Kong being in the game, right? Like, what are you doing here? And that kind of metatext was like made the entire plot of Donkey Kong Land 3, which again is not something that a lot of people will know if they didn't read the instruction manual or never played Donkey Kong Land 3, which I think is most people these days. But, Donkey Kong Land 3's entire plot is that it actually kind of throws Donkey and Diddy Kong under the bus as characters, albeit temporarily, because they completely exclude Dixie in their quest to find the lost world, and leading Dixie to like enter this competition by herself and I guess enlisting Kitty for lack of any other better options. It sounds like we're slagging on Kitty, and I don't want to do that. We love Kitty here at DK Vine. Yay. But
Kitty.
Kitty, obviously, I think Kitty was designed not to overshadow Dixie as a character, and kind of to end this need to have the sidekick character get their own game after the fact. Like, let's end this cycle now by having a character that nobody's really going to be asking to lead the next game, which is fine. And he's a wonderful.
Backfired because I'm still waiting for it, Rare.
You and the Kitty Kong Twitter account,
yeah,
which is totally not me.
But that was made the entire plot of Donkey Kong Land 3, which was just like, I need to prove Donkey and Diddy that they're being misogynistic assholes, which I love, and that's the only Donkey Kong game where Donkey Kong doesn't appear. He's just not in it. So yeah, I mean, Dixie, I think was important for me as a young boy growing up, to have this like bit of pop culture that I was obsessed with have such a strong woman character at the forefront and having such a leading role by the time of DKC3, and to me feel no shame in playing that and enjoying that. It definitely, because when you're a kid, especially back in the 90s, you're expected to stay in your gendered lanes, that society defines for you. So it was like, I have to like boy stuff, have to avoid the pink aisles in the toy store, and that was frustrating for me. I think I've said, like when I was collecting like Ninja Turtle action figures, really wanted the April O'Neil figure, and they would always short pack it because the executives were thinking, well, boys probably won't want to play with this one, so we'll just put one in a box and make it super hard to find. I was like, no, I need to have her. She's an important part of the cast.
I always wanted the Mona Lisa figurine, but they never stocked enough of her at the store.
Which one was she?
Oh, she was in like 2 episodes of the animated series. She was Raph's girlfriend.
Okay. I think I vaguely recall her, but I always confuse her with Venus de Milo from The Next Mutation.
That's understandable.
Who's coming back, by the way, in the comic books. They're reviving her.
The comic books now have 3 girl turtles and Mona in them. So
nice.
Enough for a full team.
But yeah, it was important for me to feel, I think, confidence in like, no, I can like something with a female protagonist. It's stupid bullshit that says I can't. And, like, I don't want to say, like, it sounds so rote. It sounds so stupid to say that Dixie Kong made me a better person in the long run. But yeah, I think she did. I think it was kind of important in my development to have that. I don't know.
Oh, I get you. That's awesome. Yeah. So, DKC3 was the first DKC game that I owned. It wasn't the first one I played, but it was the first one I owned. I got it the year it came out. So we've been with each other for pretty much, most of my life and for its entire existence. It's been like really an important game to me. And, it was just really cool to have a game where like the title character was the girl character, because before that, I think the only playable girl I had in any game that I owned was Super Mario All-Stars, Super Mario Bros. 2, the fact that you can play as Peach, and then, Peach promptly went back to being, like, not playable in Mario platformers for, decades.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was my first experience, having, just a girl hero that I could look up to, and that was really important for me as a kid. And I wanted to have a very long ponytail someday because I was like 4 or 5, and I thought that if you had a really long ponytail, you could actually use it to fly around if you tried hard enough.
Oh man, that would have been great. I used to have hair that went down below my waist. I wish I could have flown around with that.
Could you hang on hooks? That's what I want to know.
I hadn't tried.
You could. It might hurt though.
I would imagine.
Your scalp.
That's fair.
Yeah, I would imagine that. Although it could feel good if you like a scalp massage. If you hang just right. I definitely could see incidentally that the games, because of Dixie, were resonating with a larger audience of girls when I was a kid. I remember in my, I guess it was middle school at that point. But I remember seeing couple times girls wearing the shirt you got for reserving Donkey Kong Country 3 at Toys R Us. You got a shirt with Dixie and Kitty and the hovercraft, and it was actually something I saw in the wild a couple of times, always worn by girls, and I was like, that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. And when you look at the larger fandom of Donkey Kong, it is, probably a better distribution, of the genders than you would, see in other franchises. And I think, Dixie Kong probably had a large role in that. And I mean, I don't know. Like, I think, I mentioned like the honey licking. Just replaying Donkey Kong Country 2 the other day for my Twitch stream. I was making note that, you know, it really sums up the difference between Diddy and Dixie when they're both on the honey walls. Diddy will look at you, the player, impatiently. Like, what are we doing? Why are we stopped here? Can we get moving? We are in a killer beehive. I want to leave. While Dixie just stops, licks the, scoops the honey up with her finger, licks it, and savors the moment. And I think, like, that characterization has always held true. That Dixie will just enjoy whatever ridiculously dangerous situation she's in. She's one of my favorite video game characters of all time. Like, Diddy is my favorite video game character of all time, but Dixie is right up there. Probably number 2. I adore her. It was one of the greatest moments to see that she was back in Tropical Freeze, which I realize was like announced almost 9 years ago now, but.
Shut your face.
I'm really hoping whatever form, the next Donkey Kong game does take, make sure to include Dixie. I don't want to have to wait for Dixie for the sequel. I think she should be part of the cast in some form or fashion. And my expectations are low. It's probably going to be Donkey and Diddy, you know, at least to start with. But I don't want to have to wait another 5 to 8 years to get Dixie back in a playable role. Well, we talked about what works. Let's talk about, the initial woman in the Donkey Kong series. Not Pauline Gibbon. I'm talking about the Donkey Kong Country series. I'm talking about Candy Kong.
Yes.
Now, it's funny because, you know, we just spent this time talking about how important Dixie was for representation and how she's kind of overlooked. I think Candy is what a lot of people on the outside looking in think of when they think about representation of women in the DKU. So let's talk about Candy and let's talk about what works and what doesn't. Probably mostly what doesn't, but
yeah, like I think to an extent having Candy is another one who was introduced as like, this is Donkey Kong's girlfriend. That's not actually brought up much at all ever.
No.
Beyond the initial fact, but
she actually spends more time flirting with Funky these days than she does.
Mm-hmm.
She spends DK64 flirting with the entire playable cast.
And K-Rool.
And K-Rool. But yeah, it's mainly her design that's the issue. She's just kind of a piss take at like pinup girl video game character design.
And I think like a piss take is fine, but maybe not when that's the only woman in your game. I mean,
it's one of those things where like a game tries to like parody something, but then they're also just like doing the thing.
Yeah.
So like even if it was intended as like a joke, it's kind of like, well, the joke is also just what it is, you know?
Because like in her initial appearance, she's in like a pink leotard. She's the only Kong who's standing fully upright, and they show off her figure. And she,
I know, like there was like a pretty popular. I think like Toby Fox tweeted about this or something. Maybe I'm making that up, but like there was some tweet that went around not too long ago, just like remarking on how like absurdly tall she is. Like, because if you consider that DK is like a gorilla, and then Candy is like twice as tall as he is.
Well,
just like
DK is also hunched over. I think
still,
if you
but like
had DK stand up awkwardly.
Cam says it was Toby Fox.
But yeah, that's another thing. She just stands up bipedally like a human, and it's weird, and I don't like thinking about it. But she's always kind of had over-sexualized designs. In TK64, she's just like a blatant Britney Spears parody. And I think her best design's actually been the GBA DKC2 and 3 design, where she was kind of done up as Vanna White for Swanky's Sideshow.
Yeah. What do you think about the Payon redesign? Or the Payon era redesign?
Yeah, it's better. It's sort of it's using DK64 as a base, but it tones it down and gives her a bit more personality beyond just being a Britney Spears knockoff.
She's not
Cameron posted the tweet if you wanted to see it.
She's not gyrating herself into pretzel shapes at various points, so
and she's not flirting with everybody. So
I think, because I've thought about this, because it's funny, because when Candy was removed from DKC2, I was like, oh, that's a shame, because as a kid, I wasn't thinking like, she doesn't really work as a character. I was thinking more like, oh, she was in the first game and now she's not in this game. I hope she's not forgotten about. And so it was really exciting when she was coming back for Donkey Kong 64. Believe it or not, we were excited about Candy Kong. I mean, it was like, oh my God, they haven't forgotten Candy Kong. Continuity. It's great that this character is back. And it isn't until you're a little bit more wizened and savvy that you start recognizing, hey, this character doesn't have a lot going on, does she? No. And part of the problem too is that, Cranky and Funky both took off as characters because there was something to work with there. Like, yes, Cranky just gave you looping advice for World 1. And hurled insults at you. Funky was just your method of traveling backwards to past worlds, but we understood where they stood. We understood where they stood. I said it. Cranky Kong is the original Donkey Kong. He's bitter. He's jaded. He's every angry boomer in your life. And he's funny and kind of endearing.
He's Grandpa Simpson.
Funky Kong is not just a laid back surfer dude, but he's also a brilliant mechanic. He's running this airline. We can grow that. He can become the tech wizard for the Kongs, right? Yeah. So Funky takes off as a character. Candy runs the save point. Which,
by its very nature, is a thing that's going to be outdated in games less than 5. Well, not
Candy got
not
replaced
too many years after.
She ultimately got replaced by hitting a button and hearing okay.
Yeah, and you could even tell even a year later, they didn't just repeat that and just have Wrinkly run the save point. No, Wrinkly is a school teacher teaching Kong College. She's trying to bring education to the Kremling youth of Crocodile Isle. So Wrinkly had character development out of the starting gate. Candy, it took, I think, to Donkey Kong 64 for us to have any inkling of what she did or what she was about other than being Donkey Kong's disturbedly proportioned girlfriend.
And even then, it's what she's about. It's just being about. She's doing something different literally every single appearance.
Yeah, she's into music and dance, but there's no real through line there,
I guess, they had her do that little dance minigame in GBA DKC1.
Yeah.
But then, she's doing the Vanna White for Swanky. She's working the music booth in DK64. She's running the mini games in the Payon stuff. She's just around in some of the Payon games. She doesn't really have a purpose. She just shows up in cutscenes at the beginning and end of the game. She just kind of exists.
She does, yeah. And even her relationship with Donkey Kong isn't interesting in any way.
Yeah. You get an interesting relationship with Diddy and Dixie, not because the relationship is the core of their characters and is all anyone ever talks about. It's because they're around each other a lot. We get to see them interact and do stuff and play off of each other, like those animations in the Beehive you were talking about.
Yeah.
Candy gets none of that. Nothing at all.
Yeah, when the best...
I know, DK doesn't talk a lot, period, but has DK ever said, a line to Candy, in a game.
Oh god.
I know in
This is a weird
DK64
mental test.
he goes in to the shop and he just kind of like mouth open is gaping at her.
This is. I know they converse a lot in the cartoon show, but the cartoon has its own issues.
Oh, well, I'll touch upon that. Don't worry. I actually made a notation just for the cartoon fans in here. I was like, don't worry. We'll slag that candy too.
I will say I kind of like her design in the cartoon, but you know, her characterization is another story, but I don't know. It's like a really, really different take on
Courtney,
on
you just like blew my mind because Donkey Kong has never said one line of dialogue to Candy, to my recollection.
Maybe in like maybe like in the GBA games.
I don't
they
even
have
think
those
that
new intros and outros with the Kongs talking and stuff.
Maybe in like the closing scenes, like when they're all like on the Gangplank Galleon together or something. Maybe but I don't even think there was any direct dialogue back and forth between them. I think maybe that's why so many people ship her with Funky these days, because at the very least they shared that smoldering glaze at the beginning of Jungle Climber. And you're like, whoa, there's something hot here. And that one little scene had more emotion than any screen time she shared with Donkey Kong. So
yeah, DK's just like, I'm here to save my game and get out of here. Just
I've got to get to what's important, my bananas.
Exactly.
Calling Dr. Freud.
Okay. Well then.
No, but I mean, I don't really hate any Donkey Kong characters. I don't hate Candy Kong. I think even her creator, Steve Mails, admits, I kind of whiffed that one. He talked about it when, they were talking about the character designs for Impossible Lair, and he talked about Queen Phoebe and how, doesn't want to repeat the mistakes of Candy Kong. And, so, I mean, it's something that is, universally held true, even to the creators responsible for her. I think she can be salvaged as a character.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
I don't have any suggestions for that, but I think she could be salvaged.
Go on.
No, I was going to trail off anyway.
Well, I've seen a lot of fan redesigns of her. Maybe not a lot, but I've seen quite a few. And it's interesting because a lot of people go the route if she's going to be DK's girlfriend, she should maybe be how Diddy and Dixie can sort of play off each other and toss each other and stuff. So maybe DK should also have someone that's more physically strong so they could do the same thing. So I've seen more imaginings of her as sort of like a buff gorilla. I don't know if Nintendo were to officially redesign her, if they would ever actually go that far. I mean, I think that would have been a cool route to go from the beginning, but I don't know if it would ever actually happen.
I've seen some people going the Tana route, sort of riffing off a Crash 4, and making her a bit more punk, which is also cool.
I think if you
gives her
leaned
some
into
character, even if she's still going to be an NPC.
Yeah, if you leaned into her music thing more and made her more of a musician, there's a lot of fun things you could do with that. And she doesn't have to be some sort of, like you said, Britney Spears pop musician. She could be, more of a rock style Kong or something.
It's wild to me that her only identifiable thing other than gorilla sex appeal is music, and yet she wasn't in the Donkey Konga games.
Don't worry about it.
All right, Breagle. I'm just saying, it's weird. The one Kong who was most closely identified with music, and she wasn't in the music series. All right, whatever.
Yeah.
Her though, and that's more on just the Donkey Konga games making some interesting choices in general. I guess.
Oh, they made so many interesting choices, but we would be here all night if we belabored those. I did like Dixie's portrayal in Donkey Konga 2, where she was just a better drummer than Donkey and Diddy. And the only thing I didn't like about Dixie's portrayal in that game is where she said her favorite song was the Super Mario Brothers theme, and her favorite song to play in the original Donkey Konga was the Super Mario Brothers theme. It's Dixie,
I wonder what she says in the Japanese version.
I don't know. I mean, the NTSC version had the worst music. Either iteration of Donkey Kong that we got had the worst music out of all regions.
Yeah, it's kind of a baffling set list, but like I understand what they were going for, but it's still baffling.
I understand what they were going for, and yet I don't understand what they were going for. Like,
I understand what they were going. I don't understand why they were going for it.
Okay. Fair point. Fair point. Now let's talk about Candy really quick in the cartoon, because it's such a wildly different character in the cartoon. Like, they basically reinvented her from the ground up in the cartoon, and I understand why they did it, because there was nothing to work with. But they actually went into a different problem area with the cartoon. And this is one that's closer to home for me. This is, becoming the nagging sitcom wife, which is a totally different kind of trope. Just the killjoy character who is there to be irritated at your male lead.
Mm-hmm. Good points. She was independent. She had a personality. She had a job. She did things. Bad points. The personality I just mentioned.
Yeah, it's a hacky, hoary sitcom trope to and I'm sure from a male writing room perspective, it's no, we're showing that she's the responsible one. It's actually a positive portrayal. But to the audience, she's getting in the way of the fun, of the hijinks, of the wackiness that you're tuning in to see. Yeah, hijinks with an S. Yeah. It was something that was stupidly demonstrated with the show Breaking Bad, why so many men hated the character of Skylar White. It's because she's getting in the way of his awesome meth empire. It's
I hated Skylar White because I hate all the characters on that show.
Okay,
I understand why people liked it.
All right, well,
anyway.
I'll invite you on for the Oops All Tangents on Better Call Saul's final season, and we can hash it out then.
Hang up in the middle.
But yeah, as somebody who briefly inhabited that world, it's just I see all of the, I wrote a parody of sitcoms and I included that trope in there because it was such a identifiable trope. And I had Candy Kong in mind from the cartoon a little bit when I was doing that. So it's just, there has to be something you can do with Candy other than, sex appeal or killjoy.
Yeah. I think that's just on, devs actually bringing her back and doing something interesting with her, so. Well,
we'll just add her to the heap then. The heap of Donkey Kong characters we're waiting to see come back and have something interesting done with.
Lanky's gonna show up again someday.
Chunky too.
I was sure that Lanky would get his day in the sun. It just when Lanky was a meme and he was everywhere, I was Lanky is one of the most popular Donkey Kong characters. Surely they will do something with him. And maybe they will. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, who knows?
Well, let's talk about Candy's replacement and all the ways that she improved on Candy, up to and including dying. And that is Wrinkly Kong.
Yeah, you're not wrong about the dying part. Wrinkly's actually a really interesting character because, again, she actually has a character. She's Cranky's counterpart, and they play off of each other even if they're not physically in the same room together because they're both grousing about each other.
Yeah.
But the way they go about it sort of shows off their personality. So right there, they have that dynamic that Donkey and Candy don't have.
Mm-hmm.
But also, Wrinkly's, like you said, she's doing something. She's, trying to educate the Kongs and the Kremlings and bring a little education to the proceedings, and sort of saves your progress incidentally. She, in the next game, she sort of, they get into this in that DKC3 video as well. She's just she's got her own space. She has her own woman cave that's just sort of homely and nice, and she's playing Super Mario 64 in her free time.
Yeah.
And berating Cranky for wasting his money at this old-timey Midway sideshow. she's actually kind of way more important to the plot of the game than Cranky is. Cranky's just sort of incidentally in DKC3.
Yeah.
While Wrinkly is an integral part of it. She's the one who looks after all the banana birds you find. She's the one who saves your progress on her VHS tapes, which is adorable, by the way, if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of offers some advice and quips as you stop by, just without having to select it from a menu or charging for it or anything. She just talks to you while you're around. And it just has the air of visiting your cool grandma who also plays video games and actually knows what she's talking about and doesn't, berate you for being young the way grandpa does, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then she dies.
Well, I was going to say she also shows a little bit more of that humanitarian or apitarian streak where she's the one who takes interest in the banana birds that you're finding, and she's bring them back here. Like I will take care of them all until I get them back to their true mother. Yeah, and you're right. Like she is absolutely vital to the end game. So I never really thought about how much DKC3 is also Wrinkly's game as far as NPCs go. Like she is the star NPC of that game.
Yeah.
Let's say that, DKC3 in general, it being Dixie's game, like they also brought in, I think, just a more, like a greater presence of women in general. You got the Queen Banana Bird, who's like, obviously, you never meet her until the very end of the game, but she's the one who gets like the ultimate triumph over K. Rool by somehow laying an already cracked egg onto him. And then you've got your first canonically female animal buddy.
Yeah.
Right.
Ellie.
Yeah.
Ellie, yeah.
And she's the I don't know if I'd say the star animal buddy, but she was the one that was on like the marketing. And stuff.
I think she's the star
Rambi
of
usually
DKC3 because she kind of replaced Rambi for that game, and she's got so many different like things she can do with the water and like the sucking the barrels and. Yeah,
she's my favorite animal buddy. She's
so cute.
Yeah, that too.
I love her.
DKC3 just kind of has this Dixie and Wrinkly and Ellie trifecta going on of importance. Along with Fungi, Wrinkly's like the one you're required to visit a couple times. You never have to go talk to Swanky or Cranky at all.
Yeah, you could go through the game without realizing Cranky was even in it. Like if you just go to Swanky's and you're like, oh, I don't care about playing this mini game, see ya, and then you just leave. Like you would never even see Cranky at all.
Yeah, he'd show up in one of the endings.
Oh yeah, he's in like the final cutscene, and you'd be like, wait, he was in what is he doing here? Why is Cranky here?
Yeah, basically.
But I think that works though. I think like sidelining Cranky works well for DKC3 because you don't need that bitter like.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
Especially because he was the one who was like so like down on Dixie in the previous game, and so now she's like showing him up. So he's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go be over here throwing these balls." All right.
Like okay, Grandpa,
maybe a little bit of egg on his face. He's kind of slinking away.
Yeah, I'm gonna go hang out with my barrel-chested. Possible relation, and we're gonna chuck balls at the wall. Yeah.
But then, like, Wrinkly doesn't let death get in the way of anything. Like, she just keeps doing her thing as a ghost.
Yeah. So I love, aside from the stock age jokes, which are also always in play for Cranky, like falling asleep in your chair, which I fall asleep in my chair and I'm not that old. I mean, life is hard. Sometimes you want to take a nap. Get over it. But, it's kind of cool, in my opinion, that in these games that were essentially marketed to kids, there is this older woman who played such an important, vital part of the game. She was a reoccurring member of the cast of increased importance and prominence throughout the Super Nintendo and Game Boy trilogies. And like, how often do you see an older woman?
And unlike Cranky, who's just a total boomer and is stuck in the past and doesn't know what you're talking about, she's with it. She's playing Super Mario 64 when you stop by.
Yeah, that game before I had it. Heck, I had it in 64 for years.
Like, she's up on the times.
Yeah, until trying to win tug of war in Mario Party killed her.
She just bled out through her palm.
Even then, like, that actually makes her a more active participant in things. So, like, maybe not in DK64 where she's just a glorified hint station.
Yeah.
But in the Payon games, she's going around peg swinging with the crew because she's freed of her earthly shackles and is now free to.
I mean, you're right. I'm laughing. I'm just laughing at the like hilarious imagery that you're describing. But you're right.
Yeah.
And
like she's an active participant. She helps out. She schools you on how to do things. There's some adorable little scenes of the Kongs all together, of her and Wrinkly together, like holding parasols up, and it's like, she's dead. Why? Okay, fine.
Right, and
just a ghost hanging out with her husband.
She's a racer in Barrel Blast / Jet Race. Like it is great. I love that. After the buyout, that Nintendo, and particularly Payon, didn't like shy away from the established continuity. It's like, well, she's dead. Let's just roll with it. Let's just keep her around as a ghost, as a spirit character.
Some people just really don't like the fact that Wrinkly canonically died, but I mean, aside from it being sad, I just always thought it was really cool because it shows the actual progress and change of characters in the series, and also. It's cool. Ghosts are cool. I love ghosts. I love having a ghost Kong who's just there, you know?
The series is always good with showing progress on things. Have you ever noticed how in Donkey Kong Country 1, Cranky is basically confined to his wheelchair? In Donkey Kong Country 2, he's standing up, standing in place with the help of two canes. In Donkey Kong Country 3, he's moving around and playing at Swanky's. In DK64, he's running that potion shop. In Donkey Kong Country Returns, he's selling you the potions he's now perfected, and then in Tropical Freeze, he's presumably with the help of said super potions, running around and kicking ass and taking names.
Or
just this, yeah.
You know, they could have shown Candy had him in a yoga studio and Cranky, you know, getting more physically fit and able, and that was a missed opportunity to develop Candy.
He turned to mad science.
All right, and you don't like Breaking Bad. It's all about making potions in the lab.
Well, maybe after Wrinkly died, after Wrinkly died, that like put the fear in him, and he's like, "Oh, I better take care of myself." So he started working out or something. You know, Wrinkly liked to work out.
Yeah,
I didn't say
that's
her,
true.
No. Yeah, who doesn't like that Wrinkly died, Courtney? I've never encountered anyone in my life.
Oh, there's like, I don't know who it is, but I see like the Dixie for Smash account. There's like this little feud that's going on between a couple people where someone like refuses to acknowledge the canonicity of Wrinkly dying and wants it to be like retconned or something.
Because I know in our
That's
next...
so weird. Are these like the same people who want Donkey Kong Jr. to be his own thing?
I also don't know how serious they are about it. This could just be some kind of like inside joke. I don't know.
Oh, that's
but I've definitely seen it.
Well, I know with our next...
I know a friend of mine who just basically doesn't like anything having to do with DK64, which is fair. But she loves the like DKC games, but doesn't like DK64 and doesn't like that DK64 killed Wrinkly. Presumably for what she believes is like just so Rare wouldn't have to like make a 3D model of Wrinkly and could just use a PNG of her as a ghost, which is maybe perhaps true, but also, you know, I do like what came of it actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I love the continuity and like actual demonstrable passage of time in the Donkey Kong series, which I think we're going to get less and less of as we get further away from the buyout. But, you know, it's great. Our next character is also emblematic of that. And I see people all the time complaining about this change. And that's Tiny Kong. Which, you know, is obviously her name is a misnomer now, which I guess is the joke. But, what do we think about Tiny Kong? Because, you know, I spent the better part of 20 minutes or more lauding Dixie Kong, saying how much the character meant to me. I feel like there's this notion that you can't like Dixie and like Tiny. Like there's some sort of inherent feud between the two characters.
I think you can still like Tiny while also acknowledging that she's just Airsats Dixie. Like, her DK64 design is sort of call out to her, to Dixie's DKC cartoon show design with her little, like, daisy flower shirt and everything. And she has the same sort of signature moveset as her sister. And she doesn't even have, like, her own rig and model. She's a modified 2D from Banjo-Kazooie. So, like, she just comes off as sort of a, like, they won't let us call this character Dixie character. Because if I recall correctly, there was some, like, you can't use Kongs from DKC 2 onwards for whatever reason.
Well, was that like a Nintendo mandate, or did Rare just want to do that to sort of make it more approachable? Because DKC was the most successful one. It's
been lost to time, I think, because I heard it bandied about back in the time period, like 1999.
Yeah, but so much of that conventional wisdom has turned out to be a load of bullshit.
Right.
So
yeah, so it's hard to say. I could see it being like a Stamper Brothers edict, like that could be, because I have a lot of respect for Chris and Tim Stamper, founders of Rare, but they did sometimes have weird notions, and I could see one of them being like, well, Donkey Kong Country sold so well, we want to get people back on board with this N64 entry. We don't want to feel like the sequels are like this barrier to enjoying this game, so we're only characters from the original Donkey Kong Country can appear. This is the way the Stampers sound, by the way. Only characters that can appear, that appeared in Donkey Kong Country can appear in this one, and new characters. So we can't
except for Wrinkly, but she has to die.
Except for Wrinkly, but she has to die.
Right, and I think I remember something in Scribes where, like, they decided they wanted a ghost character, and they were just like, well, we can kill Wrinkly. Like a few characters eke through, like Clobber and Kaboom and some other DKC2 baddies.
It's weird. It's just weird that, like, even given those edicts, they basically put Dixie and Kitty in the game and just called them something else.
Yeah. Like at one point, like the idea, like when they were pitching ideas for Kongs, like Tiny was a male organ grinder monkey, and eventually became basically just Dixie. And I don't know if it was like, oh, we're going to make Dixie's little sister and Chunky's older brother, or if that came from like Lee Loveday in the instruction manual, like, I'm going to make this work somehow with established canon. Like, so much about the creative process behind Donkey Kong 64 is only still like unfolding. Like, we just found out recently that Chris Seaver, when he was put on the game away from Conker so it could get out November 99 in time, like it was an all hands on deck situation, Chris Seaver was responsible for Glower the Tadpole. He created that character. And it's like,
that's crazy.
That's great, Chris Seaver. Why didn't you just use Glimmer?
Yeah. Like, well, so that's one of those things, along with, like, if you could just call Tiny Dixie, I can, like, totally see why they would change the character design, because, like, you're now moving around in 3D space, so having, like, the pigtails instead of the single ponytail gives you that silhouette with the hair that is going to define that character, because you want everyone to have a defined silhouette to easily distinguish them, and allows you to do sort of the 3D helicopter spin thing and other stuff like that. So, like, I totally wouldn't have had a problem with that just being Dixie's new design for the game. They redesigned a ton of other characters too, so why not? And same for Chunky and Kitty. It's just like, oh, Kitty grew up a bit. Look, character progression. This happens all the time in this series, right? And, like, even if you kept everything else about him the same, it's just like, oh yeah, Kitty grew up. He's still gigantic. He's also a bit of a scaredy cat, ironically. He just didn't know better as a baby, and now that he does, he's like, oh god, and that amuses me. And they didn't do that. But yeah, so I think, all that being said, I think you can still like Tiny as a character while acknowledging all of that. Like, she does kind of bring her own personality to the table. She's not just Airsets Dixie. They do give her a bit of her own thing going on.
And what is that thing? Describe it to me. Pretend like I don't know.
I feel like she has a bit of a different attitude about things than Dixie does.
I agree with you. I just don't know if I can actually describe it with words. It's more just a feeling.
I'm the same.
I would say we were talking earlier about how Dixie's maybe not laid back, but she's just kind of got that self-confidence and doesn't feel the need to prove herself to other people. Tiny seems to have a bit of a superiority complex. Well, not complex. She comes off as being a little full of herself.
Yeah,
she comes off a little smug in places.
I have the same feeling, and I can't point to like an exact.
It's in her she does those poses and stuff when she'll open a door or whatever, and she'll be like and turn her nose up or do
in the tag barrel, she's like pointing to herself, and she's like Tiny.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And just
she's like nodding confidently.
She'll do those little poses or the little quips or just little actions and body language throughout the game that kind of gives you the impression that, she's a bit smug about herself, which does help distinguish her from Dixie.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. And then, of course, post-buyout, the aging up into her teenage years, which is
the Nintendo sexy character edict. Yeah.
Now, was this a Nintendo edict?
After learning that they were behind Crystal's redesign, I totally believe this was a Nintendo edict.
Because a lot of people think because her first appearance in this her teenage form, and actually the last chronological aging up of any Kong on record so far, it was in Diddy Kong Racing DS. So
I'm
lot of people
almost positive there's a either a soundbite or a tweet or something somewhere where they were like, "Oh yeah, no, that wasn't our decision."
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like when it happened, it was just assumed. Oh, Rare's at it again. They're adding continuity. They're changing characters. This is awesome that Rare is doing this. Like aren't they such anarchists?
I
but
do not remember the reaction being "This is awesome."
Quote unquote. It was in my mind because I was like, oh my god, like characters are still aging. Continuity.
No, that part was cool. I just remember a lot of people complaining that like they bimbofied her. Basically.
Well,
I just wanted to give my personal experience, which is that speaking of liking Dixie and Tiny at the same time, so like obviously, like I said earlier, I really loved Dixie growing up, but then when DK64 came out, like I don't know, I was still young and it just didn't really occur to me that I should be upset that Dixie got replaced or something. I just like Tiny too. Now the reason that I like Tiny specifically is because I am currently over 30 years old and 4'10", and I have always been proportionately that small. I have a heart condition that stunted my growth, so I am just always been a small person. And so there was this Kong whose name was Tiny, and she was like a cool, sassy girl, and that was her thing, was that she was small, and she could even get smaller, and that was like her power, and I found that really cool and empowering as a kid. And I actually, when I was in 6th grade, chose to play the saxophone because of Tiny Tall.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then they made Tiny Tall, and I was like, oh.
oh no.
Yeah, that happens.
So much for representation.
But on the other hand, I realized that kind of makes Dixie even cooler to me, because it's like Dixie's the older sister, but she didn't get tall, so Dixie is actually the small one.
Yeah.
She's just small like me, so hey.
When I see a lot of people try to argue that somehow it was retcon that Tiny was the younger sister because Diddy is now smaller than Tiny. And I'm like, no. Tiny got this growth spurt. Dixie stayed the same height. I actually really love that aspect that Dixie is the older sister, but Tiny has the Candy Kong proportions now.
Yeah. It kind of makes me wonder if Candy, Dixie, and Tiny are all from the same family. If that's just genetics. that Tiny shot up like that.
I just skipped over Dixie and the jeans.
Yeah, but
I mean, it happened in my family. My younger brother's like a head taller than me. Takes after Dad.
Tiny like was kind of bouncing around the late aughts. You know, she Diddy Kong Racing DS, Barrel Blast. She was a playable character in that. I think she was in she was in Sluggers.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, you know, the Kong cast reduction happened with Returns roughly, where it just shrunk down to Donkey, Diddy, and Cranky, and then eventually we got Dixie and Funky back. But yeah, I mean, like, if Tiny reappeared, I see all of these people saying she needs to revert back to her Donkey Kong 64 appearance, and I feel like that's backtracking. Like, now, granted, the thing about Tiny Kong is she can take a potion and shrink. So I would be fine if, you know, she could shrink down back to her Donkey Kong 64 proportions and then drink another potion and shrink even, you know, you could play with it, but I don't ever want to backtrack. You can redesign her, but I don't want to go backwards in time and say this never happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's like she went through puberty. I just feel like the cat's out of the bag. Like, you can't put that. You can't put that back in. Like, it would be really weird if she reverted all of a sudden. Like, I didn't like it at first, but I've gotten used to it. You know, I wonder if Nintendo made that call to make her more different than Dixie. Oh, now, like, there's something that sets her apart. And we don't have two virtually, in their minds, indistinguishable characters. It gives Dixie greater purpose again. And that just means that Tiny probably won't ever be playable in a platformer ever again. But if it's like pulling teeth just to get Dixie in there, it's probably for the best to remove one element from the table. If it keeps us from, if it keeps Dixie from having her rightful place as, you know, the third most important character in the series. I like Tiny. Like I said, I like all the Donkey Kong characters, but Tiny, even like playing Donkey Kong 64, like, I like playing as Tiny. Like, I do admit when the game came out, I was like, why isn't Dixie in this? Why isn't Kitty in this? Like, that was the Donkey Kong 64 that had been built up in my head between 96 and the beginning of 99 when it was announced. I was like, it's going to be playable Donkey, Diddy, Dixie, and Kitty all in the same game, right? And so it's partially on me for imagining a game with Dixie in it, but...
I mean, that's not just you. I think a lot of people had that expectation.
Yeah. But it is what it is, and it's been over 20 years. I got over it. I like Tiny. And I do like the continuity, even if it does kind
Kyle Russell, he comes around on things.
I do, eventually. Give me time.
So we've only been talking about Kongs so far.
Yes.
So let's talk about some other characters in the Donkey Kong games. They weren't Kongs. We have some female Kremlings, actually, which kind of sounds ridiculous when I say it like that, but like, there are actually only 2 canonically female Kremlings in the series.
Yes, depending on your view of K. Rool's wife as an actual character.
Oh, that's true. Well, she is an actual character. She shows up in some of the Japanese gag comics.
Right, but okay, so just looking at the games themselves. Yeah. K. Rool mentions a wife, and then, you know, that was extrapolated on.
I don't think we should be dismissing the Japanese gag comics, especially since they're one of the establishing factors for Junior growing up to be modern Donkey Kong. But anyway,
fair enough.
She is an actual character. She's one of K. Rool's personas.
But yeah, Calypso and Cass, who debuted in Barrel Blast, which could have been a good game, but has some wonderful character design.
Does have some wonderful character design. Yes.
I love the Kremlings in this. They made a new Kremling crew for this game, and like, they're amazing. If they were ever going to go back and do a DKC cartoon revival like they're doing with other shows these days, they're making a new season of the 80s X-Men cartoon. Whatever. If they were going to go back and do a DKC cartoon revival, I'd want them to use the Payon Kremlings to fill out the roster, because they look like they're made for that sort of thing. And Calypso and Cass are two of them. Cass being a little brat with brat hair and a little dress. Would you even call it a dress? I'm not sure. And Calypso being... I don't know what to call this archetype.
Yeah, like
she's a sassy black lady.
Pam, I was gonna say Pam Grier in the 70s. Like, yeah, like
kinda.
Yeah.
She's got the tight shirt and the big afro and the hoop earrings, and
it is kind of wild to me that we didn't get women Kremlings until after Rare. And it was Payon that delivered them to us. There was still that thing about women enemies that Nintendo had going on, which is oh really
how you end up. Nintendo kind of held on to some old-fashioned ideas for a long time. I know, at least through like the Super Nintendo era.
You're speaking in the past tense here, as if they still don't have some old-fashioned opinions.
Nintendo is really weird. They're casually okay with some things, like Nintendo has a surprising amount of canonically trans characters on their character rosters.
Yeah.
But on the other hand,
East in Japan until they change it in localization.
No, that's just Europe.
Sometimes.
Fuck Nintendo of Europe. But they also sort of like other companies had to change some stuff because Nintendo wasn't comfortable beating up women as enemies. Which is how you end up with situations like Poison in the Final Fight games. And so, yeah, I could see that being maybe not a hardline rule, but just more something that, like, you wouldn't want to risk it and just stay away from it to be safe, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it'd stop us from getting Gruntilda and Banjo-Kazooie, but...
That's true, but Gruntilda's a little different. Yeah, I don't know. It's inconsistent.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we're gonna get to her. But yeah, Calypso's like a good, solid foundation for a character.
Yeah, especially if you factor in her European Brawl trophy description, which
can I read that?
Yes, I do view this at least as my headcanon because I love this aspect of the character. So,
so
go ahead.
Like all of the European like trophies for the Barrel Blast Kremlings just apparently just made shit up. Like I don't know where they got this from. They just
it's good
like
shit though.
Yeah, it is so good, but like the North American version mainly just talks about their like characteristics, like their handling and their like racing strengths and weaknesses and stuff, and like the European versions just have this lore, and it's amazing. So Calypso says, a cool beauty with chic makeup and groovy hair. A strong leader figure, she has the full trust of all the Kremling crew. She boasts excellent reflexes and is very accomplished in sports and dancing. The clubhouse she owns is regarded as something of an oasis for Kremlings. That's so awesome.
I'm just imagining this sort of Mama Cass type Kremling who doesn't take K. Rool's shit and runs this clubhouse that the other Kremlings can go to after work.
So I picture it as like this post Crocodile Isle like nightclub in the Congo jungle that the Kremlings, like the Kremling refugees that live in the Congo jungle, like all flock to, that Calypso opened as kind of this haven, this home away from home.
Like Courtney was saying, all of the Barrel Blast Kremlings get excellent descriptions, and they paint the current Kremling crew as like, yeah, K. Rool's still nominally in charge, but maybe we're not going to put up with as much of his shit as we did before.
I think that like it would be cool if I don't know, like Calypso could be set up to be like a positive role model for the Kremlings, like, you know, if you know, prospectively in some future Donkey Kong game, if we ever get enough games in the series that something like this could be viable. But, like how in Paper Mario, there's, not just enemy Goombas and Koopas, but there's just towns full of friendly Goombas and Koopas or whatever.
Yeah, true.
There could be like just a bunch of friendly Kremlings, and Calypso is just sort of like their unofficial leader, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah,
I could see that.
I would love to see any of the Barrel Blast Kremlings come back. Considering it was such a huge victory for the fandom that we got K. Rool back, I'm not holding my breath. But
they were in Smash as spirits.
Yeah, I know, but so many characters were in Smash as spirits. I mean,
long shot for sure.
Yeah,
but they have such good designs, and they're there just waiting.
Yeah, Nintendo was like, we need to fill out 3,000 spirits, jump the barrel on the floor, and start sorting through characters. But we still got a lot of characters back making canonical disembodied appearances.
Sure, I'm not discounting it. Swanky Kong's most recent appearance was as a disembodied spirit in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's canon, and I will hold my breath and pass out before I say otherwise.
And he has.
Yeah. I've thrown many the tantrum. I don't know. Calypso in particular, I like Cass, especially as this Kremling counterpart to Dixie. Mm-hmm. But Calypso, just the imagination runs wild with what you could do for that character, and that archetype is so unlike anything we've seen in the Donkey Kong series, with the Kremlings. It's just I would love that nightclub or the clubhouse to make an appearance in an actual Donkey Kong game. I want to visit it. I want to see what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's
probably never going to happen.
No, just you gotta believe though. The Kongversation, DK Vine's Kongversation is not the place to say, well, that's probably never going to happen.
Okay, fair enough.
Now this is where we go to dream. This is a magic place.
It'll be revealed at E3.
They should put her club into the DK part of the Universal theme park.
Oh,
they have nightclubs at Disney.
It's for adults only. Yeah, Calypso's After Hours
after
Club.
Dark.
Yeah. Before we move on from the Donkey Kong series, completely, there is another character I want to bring up. A character who has quite a bit of fans, I must say. To this day, she has a lot of fans. That's Pipsy. Pipsy from off of Diddy Kong Racing. AKA Astro Mouse. Outside of Timber, I would say Pipsy is the only Timbers Island native, well, okay, maybe Drumstick, to have any real pathos in the plot of the game. She has this whole thing built in where she and her family were evicted from their mountain home when Wizpig took over. And so she is not just fighting or racing to get the island back under control of Timber's family. She's actually fighting for her actual home. And she is one of the universal favorites of the game. So many people say Pipsy was their main. So many people love Pipsy and go on about her to this day. And I think that's remarkable considering Diddy Kong Racing and Diddy Kong Racing DS are her only appearances. And it's not like a Mario Kart situation where people come into this game, oh, I like Waluigi because Waluigi was in these games. I know this character. It's no, Pipsy, Diddy Kong Racing is it. And yet they still find something relatable to that character. And she's just a little yellow mouse, but she speaks to people.
Cute. She just has a genuinely very appealing design. Her colors and she's just so adorable. She looks great in the way that all the Diddy Kong Racing characters just look iconically cute in their low poly forms. She just looks so cute. But she also looks cute in her render too. She has that fuzz about her where she looks like one of those felt toys,
Yeah.
You can just feel the softness.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's a good point. She looks like one of those, cat toys that you give to your cat, that they bat around. I bet if Fangamer, if they do a next wave of Rare Racers pins, I bet if they did a Pipsy pin, she would outsell every character but Banjo and Conker.
Yeah, I could see it. For easily, yeah.
Like, I know a bunch of weirdos in the community would like Bumper, because he was in jail for indecent.
Yeah, but nobody knows that but us.
Oh no, a lot of people know it. Like, Mario Wiki tweets about it like once every 3 months.
Really? That often? Well, okay. The person running that account is one of us.
Okay.
So,
but then Rare tweets about it. Whenever you get Mario Wiki tweeting about Bumper, Rare will tweet about it or reply to it, and then there's dialogue there, so. Anyway, I'm just saying, good. Pipsy, is, you can still do something with Pipsy. Like, there's still pent-up demand. If we were ever in a position to get Diddy Kong Racing spin-offs still, like, yeah, give Pipsy that Astromouse game that she originated from. Do we know what that was about at all? We've just seen the Kev Bayless, rough sketch, like rough render of what the character looked like before being reconfigured into Pipsy in Diddy Kong Racing. So, I mean, no, we don't, it's just one of those ideas that Rare was kind of tenuously working on and that never actually became a full game, but that is the origin point for Pipsy. So, all right. Well, I guess we're leaving the Donkey Kong series behind and we're going into Banjo.
Going over to the Isle of Hags.
Banjo hyphen, and this is important, Kazooie.
I think that arrangement of the title has often confused people.
How so?
Well, as we talked about a little bit earlier, people often call it the Banjo series because so many of the games in the series are Banjo hyphen something.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if the first game had been Banjo and Kazooie, the same way you have a Mario and Luigi series, it would put a greater emphasis on Kazooie being a separate character who is equally important to the game. And
also,
I
every
think,
game is Banjo-Kazooie something except for Banjo-Tooie, which, because they just had to make that pun, so, I guess that's thrown people off ever since.
Yeah.
People are probably like, who's Tooie?
Well, there's Banjo Pilot as well, but nobody cares about Banjo Pilot.
That's the only Banjo game I've never played, so I forgot it existed.
I care about Banjo Pilot.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm not sorry that you care about it. I'm sorry that nobody else cares about it.
Espresso's in it.
That's Saberman's in it.
So, yeah.
But yeah, so I think Kazooie's name being left off of some of the titles just kind of de-emphasizes her and leads to people just leaving her off the descriptor when they're talking about the series. So it's the Banjo games, putting emphasis on Banjo when Banjo's kind of useless on his own, and Kazooie's really important.
So yeah, and I also think that because Banjo appeared by himself in Diddy Kong Racing, and then ostensibly Banjo-Kazooie with his spin-off, the fandom who's been around since at least 1997 had the tendency to just refer to it as Banjo series. I just checked the DK Vine forum to make because I could have sworn we changed the forum discussion to Banjo-Kazooie discussion. We have not.
I'm going to change that right now.
We have not. It's still Banjo discussion. Yeah, go ahead and change it right now because I'm like,
it's going to be Banjo and Kazooie discussion in about 3 minutes.
Well, Banjo-Kazooie is the name of the series.
We just talked about that.
Banjo-Kazooie if you look at the logo.
No, okay, but Banjo and Kazooie are the characters. The series itself is Banjo-Kazooie.
Oh, fine. It's your forum.
No, I'm just saying, I make sure because Smash, I think, solidified this, when you're referring to them as characters, Banjo, ampersand, Kazooie. When you're referring to the game or the series, Banjo-Kazooie. And not everybody uses that, but that is our sort of standard guide, like our style guide for when writing or referring to the characters or series. But anyway, yes, Kazooie is vitally important. She is the equal star of the Banjo-Kazooie series. And even though she wasn't in Diddy Kong Racing, you know, from the very first game in the Banjo-Kazooie series, she has been an equally important co-lead, 50-50 down the middle. What do we think about Kazooie, her personality, which can be kind of abrasive?
She's a sassy bitch and everyone loves her.
Does everyone still love her? Because
those people are wrong and don't exist.
But here's the thing. I actually think that, like, there have been so many, like, sassy sidekick type characters through the years in video gaming, and I can't say this for sure, but I would imagine that a good deal of them were inspired by Kazooie. Like, she was one of the forerunners, and, like, if you think about, like, Jak and Daxter, like, I you know, it's hard for me to not believe that Daxter wasn't inspired by Kazooie at least a little bit, considering the games themselves, like, are very, or the first game is very Banjo-like, the sequel's not so much.
Yeah, like, you had a lot of buddy duo characters after, like, Mario and Luigi popularized that format, and of course, Donkey Kong Country riffing on that with Donkey and Diddy. And so you had a lot of sort of two like-minded people as a duo, Double Dragon, Donkey and Diddy, Mario and Luigi, just et cetera, across consoles and video games. And then after Banjo-Kazooie, as Courtney points out, you start seeing a wealth of grounded main guy and sassy sidekick character. So
yeah,
you know, if you grew up with a lot of those types of characters and you didn't grow up with Banjo-Kazooie and you're just, like, approaching it now, it's just going to seem like, oh, just another one of these, but you don't realize it's one of the originals, you know?
No,
yeah, that's always interesting to stumble across, like, the originator of a trope and be like, oh, this is kind of vanilla. And it's like, yeah, because it's the thing that defined it.
I remember 98 playing Banjo-Kazooie and how refreshing and funny Kazooie was. I think Tooie is where I'm like, I question if Kazooie is just straight up psychotic, where she's like, her interactions with Bottle's family post Bottle's death. And I'm like, get a grip, Kazooie. Like, what are you doing? What are you thinking?
Like, so much.
I mean,
But then when Terry makes a joke about blowing up his large child, she's like, "Holy crap, man, that's too far."
Yeah. Like,
she's the one to call him on it.
Like, I don't think Kazooie is actually, like, as nihilistic as Conker gets in Bad Fur Day. I think Kazooie does have, sort of a moral compass and center, even if she doesn't let us, the viewer, the gamers, see it often. Again, you could even, like, hand wave away the way she acts around Bottle's family as her processing her grief over losing this person who was her friend, but she doesn't really acknowledge as a friend. And we all grieve in different ways. And sometimes we resort to gallows humor. And that was her sort of doing that, which I think would fit the character. But I mean, yeah, like, you're right. Like, Banjo isn't much fun to play as without Kazooie, is he?
Yeah, pretty much. I always hated that part of Tooie.
Yeah.
Extremely fun to play as without Banjo.
Yeah.
I also didn't playing as Mumbo.
Mm-hmm.
Mumbo is extremely uninteresting to play as. Banjo's not. Okay, I should reiterate. Banjo's not unfun to play as Kazooie. He's just a lot less fun to play as himself. I think Grunty's Revenge actually fixes that a little bit by giving him sort of a comparable but less effective moveset, and then at the beginning when he's separated from her, and then when they're reunited, suddenly everything's better because that's the upgrade. You have Kazooie now, and everything is good again. So
yeah.
But yeah.
And when I do have Kazooie in the backpack, I still like walking around as Banjo. I'm not one of those gamers who always talon trots everywhere. I like to...
I can't do that just because, like, the noise drives me insane after long enough.
And I think they designed
I
that...
love you, Kazooie, but the constant Kazooie noises would make me lose my mind.
I have to think they designed that, too, like, to have an obnoxious noise so people wouldn't spam it. I like to feel the feet on the ground.
Yep.
Yeah, I like to see Banjo's legs moving, because it feels more gratifying than when I do break out the talon trot.
I honestly think that's why they put the energy meter on the reptile roll in
Yooka-Laylee, yeah.
Yooka-Laylee.
No,
So that people wouldn't just be doing it all the time.
Definitely. And we'll get to Laylee, here in just a bit. Before we, move on from Banjo-Kazooie and specifically from Banjo's, associates, we should probably talk about Tootie really quick, because Tootie
is a character that exists.
Well, she's had kind of a resurgence in recent years.
That's true.
Yeah, we are in the Tootie-sance.
Oh God,
the Tootie-sance tootspective. That's what this portion of the program is. Tootie, we talked about how there's never really been a damsel in distress in Rare's Donkey Kong. And so the first, arguable spin-off of the series has a damsel in distress, which felt a little retrograde at the time. It was like, okay. But it kind of works with the fractured fairy tale sort of style of storytelling. And if it also helps that, one half of the protagonist is this sassy lady in the backpack. But Tootie, Banjo's little sister who gets abducted by the witch to get her beauty sucked out, and she exists.
Yep. That's about it. I do find it interesting. We found out, I don't actually know when this was revealed, that the original plan, like they do that fake out credits thing in Banjo-Kazooie that they do in all the Donkey Kong Country games, further cementing this as just a Donkey Kong Country game on the N64. And like they're having the barbecue back down at home when Tootie walks out and is like, "Guys, what the fuck? We didn't defeat Gruntilda. Get back up there." And they run back up there in a cutscene, and it's time to go fight Gruntilda in the end boss. And the plan was apparently originally that Tootie would have to make the run back. You would play as her and do the run back up Gruntilda's lair to the top. So it's interesting to sort of think that at one time we were going to have playable Tootie in the first game in this side series, and now we don't. That just never happened.
It's also, have you ever like stopped and processed what Tootie is saying there? Where she's, you have defeated her, you rescued Tootie, you foiled Gruntilda's plan. Is Tootie saying, "Hey, what the fuck? You didn't murder that witch. I want her dead. I want her in the ground."
I mean, she is the one who got kidnapped, so like, she's the one who would want to see Grunty suffer the most.
Right. I want you to draw blood in my name.
Girl.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, she's also the one who wanted to go on an adventure with Banjo, which I always viewed as like Banjo patronizing his sister. It's like, yeah, I'll take you on a grand adventure. Like maybe Tootie like learned about what he did with Whizpig, like half a year ago. And he's like, yeah, I'll take you on an adventure. And like, I would like to know more about Tootie's aspirations. Like, does Tootie want to be a video game hero? I don't know. Because she disappeared after Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah, and we know that Tiny was a bit of a reskin of the rig they had for Tootie. So it's kind of interesting to view in that lens that we kind of know a bit about like what her base walking around and gameplay would have been like too. And it's like we kind of have this weird little window into what it could have been, but is not. And they even sort of make a joke about that with the like, "Have you seen me?" milk carton in the sequel. She just disappeared.
Yeah. It seems weird that she does, like, canonically just go missing and nobody's that concerned about it after that being the crux of the plot for the first game. I know we fan-wanked that she ran away to Minecraft because she next resurfaced as a Minecraft skin, which Rare said were canonically the characters. But, yeah, I mean, like, as far as the Banjo-Kazooie series goes, she doesn't appear again. She's in Minecraft, she's in Smash as a background element and spirit. Yep. But like I said, she's undergoing a 2D Sans right now, along with the Ginginator and the Ginginator Sans.
That's true. She got merch.
She got the U2's figure, which is the first piece of 2D merchandise. Well, that's not true. I think in Japan there was a 2D plush, but that was back in '98. So yeah, the first new piece of 2D merchandise in 2 decades. So who knows? The future looks bright for 2D, probably more so than Calypso or even Tiny Kong. So
that's just bizarre to think about.
What about Gruntilda, the person who wanted 2D's beauty for herself? Gruntilda, one of the most beloved Banjo-Kazooie characters, and probably the DKU antagonist that comes closest to K. Rool as far as devoted fan following.
She's so good. Like K. Rool, she undergoes a look change in each game. She's got a new style going on for each appearance.
Yeah, that style is being dead.
and being increasingly more dead.
Death does not slow down the women of the Donkey Kong universe.
Skeleton Grunty is so cool, and it's a shame that, like most things Banjo-Tooie, people just don't think of it as much as they think of Banjo-Kazooie.
I also
Skeleton
awesome. I like possessing a mech Grunty from Grunty's Revenge and Head in a Jar Grunty from Nuts and Bolts as well. They're all great.
Yeah. And of course, who can forget holographic projection of her old body, Gruntilda, in Banjo Pilot.
Yeah, sure, let's go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just she's a great villain. She has so much personality. It's just amazing. She, like other stuff in Banjo-Kazooie, she kind of defined an era of game villain. Like, I think she's the direct originator of things that would pop up in later competing series, like in Crash Bandicoot games, where you have Dr. N, whatever the pun is in this game, talking over a loudspeaker to you or something, or in the Sly Cooper games, where you've got those sorts of quips. I definitely think that's directly pulling from Grunty, just sort of being a constant presence in the lair. And that was a thing Rare was kind of trying to do in that era. Because I remember them talking about K. Rool and DK64 and how they wanted their villains to be a present throughout the entire game, even if you didn't fight them until the end of it. So you see that in Grunty in the earlier Banjo-Kazooie as well, where she's kind of cackling at you and making quips and commenting on things and whatnot. And it's just great. We get to know her really well through that, and also through Gruntilda's trivia of her, which just kind of gives you a way too much information peek into her life.
That I wanted to talk about.
Go for it.
Is that, like, something that I think is really awesome about Grunty is you don't often get a female character who is allowed to just be, like, as purely disgusting as Grunty is. Even if you get a, like, lady villain, a lot of the time they're, like, the sexy femme fatale type. But, like, even though Grunty is trying to become sexy, like, there's no indication that her personality would change. Like, she'd be this, like, super hot lady, but she'd still be, like, washing her hair with, like, dung shampoo or whatever the heck, you know?
Like if Mario put on a super crown.
Exactly. And I think that's cool because, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
there's lots of male characters who are like they're allowed to be like gross and have the potty humor or whatever, but like, you don't get that with women so much.
Yeah, even like towards the end of the game where Gruntilda just vomits in Dingpot. And his Dingpot's like, oh yeah, Gruntilda just threw up in me. Hop on in. You know, it's just like, what? Like, what?
Oh, poor Dingpot.
Oh yeah, poor so many. Like, there's a reason why all the Banjo-Kazooie characters are, in the words of Sakurai, poor souls.
Yep.
Yeah.
I really want someone to do Little Mermaid's Poor Unfortunate Souls in the Banjo-Kazooie sound font.
Sure, I'll get on that right now. Bye.
Maybe I'll pay Apes to do that.
Yeah, Gruntilda's great, and you know, I hope whenever we do get a new Banjo-Kazooie game that it does build, because I know so many people probably just want her to revert to her quote unquote iconic appearance, just the classic green Halloween witch. But it would be nice if you could like expand on where we left her with Nuts and Bolts.
Yeah.
I don't know where you go after you're a skull in a jar, but you know, she can get creative with it. Yeah.
Maybe you do something with her apparently large supply of sisters.
Just have more sisters, or she could like put her brain in the body of another sister.
Yeah, maybe every world, like there's a, like similar to how you had a bunch of Klungo fights in Tui, you just have a bunch of fights of Grunty possessing this sister this now or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they did want to retcon back her original appearance, like there's ways to do that. Like, you know, there's magic, and like she's like actually in the employ of a literal god right now, so he could do whatever he wanted.
That's true.
But I'm not saying I think they should do that, but if they did want to go that route, I think they could easily make it canonically make enough sense, you know?
Yeah.
So long as there's an explanation for it and it isn't like Banjo Pilot where I have to invent one and then get the side eye from Gibbon.
I mean, even the rare people, like they reference Banjo Pilot in some canon materials, and they were like, "Wait, did that happen? What was going on there?" So they kind of lampshade it in universe.
I know. It keeps me up at night. Well, Gibbon, we're going to briefly touch upon an area near and dear to your heart. And that is the Conker series. The robust women of the Conker series.
They're robust.
Yeah, robust.
Emphasis on the busts.
I, of course, am referring to the sunflower. Berri. Berri, who was destined for great things, was going to be the chipmunk equivalent of your Dixie Kongs. It didn't really work out for her in the long run.
So you had the original plan with 12 Tails, that it didn't even have Conker in the title. It was just 12 Tails.
No, 12 Tails Conker 64.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. But it was starring Conker and Berri, and that actually holds over into the final project. It says starring Conker and Berri, even though Berri's no longer playable. But she was going to be a secondary playable character. She was going to play differently than Conker. She was going to have her own strengths and weaknesses and be a co-protagonist. She was kind of relegated to a damsel in distress. In Pocket Tales, she was relegated to... I don't want to call her a damsel in distress in Bad Fur Day, because, like, she doesn't seem terribly bothered with the kidnapping at all, and kind of seems annoyed to see Conker when he shows up and saves her. She
was almost like, I'm mad at you, Conker, so I'm going to become the mole of the mafia.
Yeah, like...
she
was the focus of the game was getting home to her.
Yeah.
But she wasn't ever really in distress. She gets caught up in things, but she kind of proves that she's just as competent. And I know you haven't played it yet and refuse to watch the playthrough I put up on YouTube.
Because I want to experience it myself.
That gets fleshed out a little bit in Young Conker, where she does get kidnapped by the professor and then promptly breaks out of her imprisonment and acts as your informant, who just sneaking around his lair and giving you information about it. So like she's in distress for maybe like 5 minutes. Just demonstrates that she's a competent spy in her own right.
I imagine she decided to get into the spycraft once you're abducted by an evil acorn. You're like, that's never going to happen to me again. Something like that. And just that sort of, you can see that they drew inspiration for that from Bad Fur Day, where she's just as good at the stuff she's participating in as Conker is. So, like I wrote in the show notes, she has a lot of potential, and like you wrote in the show notes, she had a lot of potential, but she got fridged. She did get fridged for Conker's angst.
We know from Chris Seaver's publicly available notes for Other Bad Day that she was going to come back in a big way for the sequel, in a different capacity, but that didn't happen ultimately. So
no, she's still dead. She's still dead.
I would argue, based on the liner notes in the Live and Reloaded CD, that shows Conker and Berri in their Live and Reloaded designs chilling on the throne, that she does come back to life somehow, eventually. And they're okay and hanging out together. But that's only the type of obsessiveness you'll find here on DK Vine.
Yeah, so,
Now it's Hyle's turn to roll his eyes at me.
Yeah, there you go. Turnabout's fair play. Yeah, I mean, like I said, she was fridged, but, they both kind of sucked. Usually when a character is fridged, it's to like, they both had their moral failings. That's what I kind of find interesting about Berri. I don't like her as a character, really. I don't like what she became, but I don't like what Conker became either. But that's the point. It's like,
But like Conker mellowed out, like I would love to see, like, Berri, assuming she got brought back, like, around the era of Big Reunion, and see how maybe she's mellowed out and stuff as well. So yeah,
it's a shame when you look at what she could have been in with 12 Tales, and I'm not saying like, I wish we got 12 Tales over Conker's Bad Fur Day.
I wish we got both.
Yeah, but, she would have been an equal co-lead, and she would have had the little dinosaur. And, it would have been interesting to see how her character would have been portrayed, how she would have been perceived. Rather than becoming this kind of ditzy valley girl, in Conker's Bad Fur Day, which, whatever. Courtney, what do you think about Berri, if you think anything about Berri?
Be honest, I don't really like Conker, either of the Conker games I've played, which are Pocket Tales and Bad Fur Day. I didn't like either of them. So I don't really have strong opinions. I mean, I understand why people like them, and I understand a lot of that appeal is just sort of this sort of, I guess, like you said, both of these characters suck, and, like, it's just kind of a more, like, I don't know if I want to say nihilistic, but that's the word that comes to mind, a more nihilistic story.
I get you.
But it just doesn't really appeal to me in a story sense or a gameplay sense.
But Conker's Pocket Tales, I mean, the Acorn people, you like those, right?
Well, that game certainly got a lot of laughs out of me.
Okay, I'll take it.
The part where one of the Acorn people in the Wild West town, like, Honker just straight up killed him. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, but a lot of characters died. Like, Wrinkly, Berri,
even
The Undertaker.
Pocket Tales, people just died.
Yeah. Straight up murdered.
Yeah. I don't know if there's much more to say on Berri. Like, she's got a pretty defined character arc.
Yeah.
That ends. Pretty definitively.
Grabbed by an evil acorn that popped out of a birthday cake, taken to catacombs, rescued, joins the mafia, gets shot in space.
Yep.
Oldest story. Tale as old as time. Well,
yeah.
Before we move on from Nintendo, there's one more contribution Rare made to Nintendo before they left.
Yes, one more was supposed to be a co-lead and then got stuck in a go-go cage. I mean, Crystal for yeah.
So Crystal, and Crystal very similar to Berri in this respect, where at one point she was going to have 50% of the game essentially, when it was Dinosaur Planet, which we all know about more than ever thanks to the ROM leaks.
Yeah.
And then circumstances got in the way. The game was heavily altered and retooled. And then by the end of it, she became, I guess, a damsel in distress. You
can say it was Miyamoto's fault. It's okay.
I don't, do we really lay it at his feet completely?
I mean, I lay a lot of things at his feet. So yeah.
I'm
totally willing to throw him under the bus for this.
I think the Stampers wanted it just as much as he did.
There are some interviews from Miyamoto and I can't remember who the other person was that were like, yeah, we wanted them to play up the sex appeal. And
we're talking about the sex appeal. I just thought you meant it becoming Star Fox Adventures and Crystal having a diminished role because of that. No,
I can't lay the blame for it becoming Star Fox Adventures completely on Miyamoto's feet. Like he played a role in that, obviously, just as he played a role in other games becoming Nintendo things instead of their own things, because hey, this looks like this, why don't we just make it that? Was kind of a running theme at Nintendo and still is to some extent. But the actual sidelining her, I don't know whose decision that was. The change in her character design, yeah, I'm going to lay that on Nintendo's feet. So,
yeah, it seems weird for such a historically viewed as a buttoned up family friendly company to be like, not to do the bit Mitchell did in the last episode, but oh yeah, we need more sex appeal in this game. Oh yeah, oh, make her sexy. Oh, you don't think
except they kind of admitted doing that in their interview. So
it just. I mean, I know Nintendo spawned from love motels and whatnot, so maybe they're
forget that.
Yeah, maybe there is some DNA in there. No, that's gross. That's not what I meant. Maybe there's just something still in them where they have to get out their jollies every so often. But
it just it cracks me up so much at the very end of the game when Crystal and Fox are talking to each other and there's this sexy sax music that comes in.
Oh, the random saxophone music.
And then at the end of the credits, the credits are just this triumphant Star Fox music, but then at the end there's another sax riff and it's oh yeah, you know what's going on.
That clip is up on YouTube and there's so many people being wow, what was the original music before you edited in the sexy Looney Tunes saxophone?
It seems like a shitpost.
It seems like a YouTube poop, but it's not.
I just love that the Rare tenure with Nintendo consoles ended with just essentially pornographic sax music. It just works somehow.
Dave was just playing them out,
Yeah.
That's his parting shot.
No, but we could talk about how the original iteration of Crystal was better or would have been better. I do like the character of Crystal. And I, especially because I stayed with her and the development, the evolution coming out of Star Fox Adventures with Star Fox Assault. And
Yeah,
Star Fox Command.
If she'd just been dropped and we'd never seen her again, this would be a different conversation. But she came back and was a major character to varying degrees in the 2 following Star Fox games.
Yeah, she was a full-fledged member of Team Star Fox and Star Fox Assault, and was I think because
a character who appeared in Command.
But yes, and had some dubious character direction in the branching timelines there, but Star Fox Assault, I really liked her. I liked what she brought to the team. I like that we had this empath on the team who was like,
it was a very Star Trek thing.
Yeah.
You know, like it reminded me of like
Deanna Troi.
Psychic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Deanna Troi
Yeah. I thought it worked, and I thought it was like, you still had Peppy there on the Great Fox as kind of like the mentor. So you still, you didn't lose him as a character. You just gained a character. And, I know some people had a problem with that, just like they had a problem with Venus de Milo, like in the Ninja Turtles, like, oh, you're breaking up the boys club with this lady. But, also, like, I know most of the renders of Star Fox Assault still had her pose seductively, but they did give her more clothing. She wasn't just wearing this weird, like, Amazonian warrior outfit.
Yeah,
like,
why the fuck was she in that outfit?
Oh, because that's what they wore on Cernia.
Yeah, but she's not from Soria.
Cernia.
What?
Her planet. Her planet.
No. No, I don't buy it. Yeah, no, she is wearing better clothing this time around.
Yes. And then she becomes cursed.
Yeah. That was a thing that happened in one of the endings.
She runs off with Team Starwolf, or she has kids with Fox.
Yeah, one of these 2 things happens.
Yeah. Anyway, I like Crystal. Screw the haters. I wish they did more with her in Star Fox Adventures, but she is redeemed in Assault, and also appeared in Command. And then one of the trophy descriptions in Super Smash Brothers, I think it was Super Smash Brothers 4 3DS, suggested she used her telepathic abilities with for sexual reasons with Fox. So
of course it does.
That happened too.
A Smash Bros. Trophy says that.
Those Smash trophies are so thirsty at times. I'm like, what is happening here?
I have to imagine they don't review all of them because there's just a million of them. And they just sort of skim over them and see if there's anything obvious that stands out. So you get shit like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like Grunty doing a scary striptease, making it into Banjo-Kazooie, they just didn't read all of those Grunty lines.
I mean, Rare got away with so much, but their stuff was more subtle compared to some of the stuff that made its way into the Smash descriptions.
Yeah, like level architecture that you
True,
have to
but
view
I don't
from
think a
above
scary
to see their
striptease.
penis.
Yeah, I don't think a scary striptease is that subtle.
No, it's not. It's not. Yeah, I think by that point I was so desensitized by Rare. Even in 98, I was just like, yeah, it seems about right. Like, oh, well. But then the buyout happened, and Rare can no longer get their filth on Nintendo. Not, on consoles. They still got their filth aplenty on the handhelds. That's true. I bet Nintendo loved the Tip-Top Suite, because for them that was just like going back to their roots.
We know It's Mr. Pants was a step too far, considering how much they had to rein that back.
Yes, let's maybe not call it the Pants Snake, although I think...
Yeah, let's the Trouser Snake.
Yeah, well, Playtonic eventually got that in.
Yeah.
They were playing the long game there. But going to the Xbox era of Rare and the DKU, we had Grabbed by the Ghoulies. A game, Courtney.
Yes.
Game you know and love, unlike Conker's Pocket Tales. I thought you loved Conker's Pocket Tales.
I'm sorry to let you down. I'm sorry.
I'm taken aback. tonight. Oh.
She gave it a
so
good
much for
try.
me being on this conversation ever again.
She
there
played
it goes.
it on actual hardware.
I did.
She
I played
gave
it on the Game Boy player on my Super Nintendo.
Can I ask you really quick before we move on, which version of Conker's Pocket Tales did you find superior?
Okay, to be fair, I played only the worst version, the like monochrome version.
No. I think the monochrome GB version is the better version of the two.
Really? Because I heard it was worse because you can't save everywhere. Like it's like more difficult.
You can't save everywhere, and it's more difficult in the fact that the boss AI is not broken. Because in the color version, the boss AI is completely broken and makes boss fights really easy.
Well, that's the version I played. I only played that one.
I think it's more interesting, and I like that you have save points. Because I was weaned on save points with your Candy Kongs and Wrinkly Kongs and what have you. So anyway, I think it's superior. I think the Game Boy Color version, while okay, isn't as polished. And anyway, that's just my opinion. I wanted to hear what you think, but you only played the superior version, so you wouldn't know. All right.
Opinion on it, to be fair. I gotta give it another chance sometime.
So Grabbed by the Ghoulies, I think did a little bit better than your Bad Fur Days and your Star Fox Adventures when it came to actually incorporating the female co-lead in Amber. Although like Amber wasn't presented as the co-lead like Berri and Crystal were at one point, she did eventually have the entire game to herself if you got to Challenge 21.
That's true.
She was originally going to be playable in the main story. Is that true, or
did you not know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where I heard this. It was only like within the past couple years, but
was it in Rare Replay? Was that in like the documentary?
I think it was like something that Greg Mails was tweeting about or something.
Okay. Maybe it was before I was on.
Source on that. It might have to be after this, but I'll try to like send it to you.
Maybe it was before I took over the Twitter account.
You know way more about Grabbed by the Ghoulies than I do, so I'll let you drive the section, and I'll see if I can find the source for that.
Okay. Well, Amber, she.
I think it was also like in just the early stages of planning, so I don't know if she even had like a name back then. But it was supposed to be. I think Cooper might have had a different name too, but it was just supposed to be like a teenage girl and a teenage guy, and you could choose which one you wanted to play as. She
and Cooper, and this is a little known fact, they are both American tourists, in England. And that's from Rare. That's why
Cooper says football.
Cooper says soccer instead of football.
Yeah, he says soccer.
Yeah.
Football.
But they're apparently American tourists, doing the whole like backpacking through the English countryside, sort of a American werewolf, situation there. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, I like Amber. I like Cooper. They kind of have this bickering back and forth, which I guess given the circumstances, it makes sense, considering Amber becomes a monster, early on in the story.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I always got the sense that Amber was, like, actually the more competent one, but there's, like, this comical series of mishaps where she keeps getting, like, more and more misfortunes happening upon her, and so, like, first she just gets kind of grabbed, and then she gets turned into, like, a sort of a simple ghoulie, and then she's supposed to be, like, cured by Cooper collecting all these ingredients, but instead, Moss Soupswill accidentally puts in the wrong ingredients, so she gets turned into a even bigger monster.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. That's always, like, the way the story read to me, because Cooper is just such, like, a huge dork, and he's, like, terrified all the time by everything, and
by ringing phones, like yeah.
Yeah, like, oh no, a phone ring! I mean, to be fair, if my phone rings, I also get scared, because I'm like, oh no, what is it?
But, I know, my mom, when I was a kid, my mom, if the phone rang after, like, 8 p.m., she would shout, "Someone's dead!"
Yeah.
And so that gave me a complex, believe it or not, throughout life. So now I can't have my phone on anything but silent because the sound of a ringing phone will just put me on edge. I have to shave the hairs on the back of my neck because they will always stand up at the sound of a ringing phone. It's terrible. So I relate with Cooper there, but also if I fought like my 300th monster within the last few hours and a phone rings, I'm not going to be thinking like, oh no, a ringing phone, I'm going to have a heart attack.
I probably wouldn't care about that at that point.
Or maybe I would try to dial out and like ask for help, like, hey, we're in a haunted mansion with this crazy baron who's abducted like a dozen children. Send for the police. I don't know, but yeah, of course in Challenge 21, Amber fights herself. So that raises some questions. I guess
is that she could do it. Like, it's just, like I said, the comical series of mishaps that keep, disabling her from being able to help Cooper break out of there.
Right.
I think that's maybe one reason why Cooper is so scared, is because he's probably used to working with his girlfriend on stuff, and he has to be all alone here.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, what is the story rationale in Challenge 21 for Amber fighting her own ghouly self? Like, is that a clone of herself? Like, I don't know. I'm probably you're probably not supposed to view Challenge 21 as canonical, but of course I do. I was like,
it's like a nightmare. Maybe it's a nightmare that she has while she's in her ghouly form, like.
Since we're never getting the sequel to Grab by the Ghoulies, I like to think that, the end of Grab by the Ghoulies, when the Baron is flying towards Cooper and Amber, he just grabs them again and he brings them back, and then Challenge 21 happens. And since Challenge 21 ends without that cutscene, then the story is resolved and we can all just move on with our lives. So, Courtney, you want to talk about Leafos, right?
I mean, I have played Viva Pinata for maybe about 2 hours total in my life. She was cool. I feel bad because I have a close friend who Leafos is one of her favorite characters, and I was thinking of maybe reaching out to her today, but I didn't have time. But Leafos has fans and people love her, but I just am not the person to talk about that, really.
Okay, because in the show notes, it says, we have these notations under Leafos. I hope at least one of you knows more about her than I do. Haha. And then under that, there's the bullet point. Nope.
Yeah, I've played a lot of Viva Pinata, but only because I used to work in, Xbox QA testing. So I wasn't playing the story at all. I don't know anything about these characters at all. I was hoping one of you two did.
I'll say this, because Viva Pinata admittedly comes from a rather dim period of knowledge for the DKU for me, because this was the time where I was in college. I was doing stuff away from DK Vine, pursuing at the time what I thought was going to be, my career path. And Viva Pinata came out. I was, interested in it. I got it, but I never fully invested in it. It's one of those things on my bucket list. I need to actually give Viva Pinata a good, solid romp.
Yeah.
Like I'm finally doing with Saberwolf. So hey, I'll get there eventually. But
Cameron's coming to our rescue in the chat. He says that Louise O'Connor gave her a description of that she's supposed to be nice, but also is subtly condescending, basically talking to you with the cadence of a preschool teacher. That's an interesting personality there.
I do like all of the humans in Viva Pinata, how they're a bunch of weirdos who are obsessed with the pinatas and just they remind me a little bit of the Chopper Bird from Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, who's just this dude dressed like a bird and just living amongst the hellabirds.
They come from this period where Rare was kind of obsessed with putting people in weird masks. You saw a lot of that in the Saberman Stampede character designs as well.
Yeah.
And Mumbo was going to be in Viva Pinata at one point, even as one of the NPCs around the village. And it was okay.
Yeah, it's just like somebody at Rare saw Eyes Wide Shut, and they're really into like these kinky sex clubs, and they're like, yeah, characters in mask. That's what the kids want. That's what's going to bring us
thinking
success.
2005's Mirror Mask, but you do you.
I don't know. Anyway, that's my substantive contribution to the Lethos discussion of the episode.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
I can more confidently talk about some Yooka-Laylee characters if we want to move on to them.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's stop embarrassing ourselves.
Yes, Laylee. Let's talk about Laylee, because Kazooie, obviously, like, Laylee is viewed by most as just an XP for Kazooie, right? Like, here we have this bad character that rests on the sort of every person, layman kind of like straight act of the group, like just the banjo to Laylee's Kazooie. But I think Laylee is actually quite a bit different from Kazooie once you get past the surface level comparisons.
For sure.
Laylee is more hyper energetic, almost bombastic. She's more childlike, I think, in her demeanor than Kazooie is.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
Like
definitely got.
Like, I would say she's more impulsive, and, since you used the B word earlier, I'll just say she's less bitchy for just the sake of bitchiness. She's more, impish. She's like
a little gremlin, and I love it. She's got that gremlin energy. Yeah,
especially in Yooka-Laylee and the Cracklestone, the Dream Prism Press graphic novel, canonical graphic novel, by the way. And Yooka-Laylee in the Impossible Lair, especially. Like, the original Yooka-Laylee, I could see, oh yeah, she feels like Kazooie, but the subsequent appearances and works, she is definitely her own character. And like, the childlike aspect of her, like, she likes binging cartoons, and she's just, she's more prone to get into trouble. I think it comes across a little bit more clearly. I really love Laylee. I wasn't really sold on her with the original Yooka-Laylee, but ever since then, I think her character and the work they've done developing her has been fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I generally agree with all that. I like her distinctive personality. I like the subtle ribbing of her big nose.
Yeah, I think her, like, sassiness almost comes from, like, it makes more sense than Kazooie's, where we love Kazooie, but, like, I don't know, you might ask, why is Kazooie so, like, sassy and mean to people? And it's like, well, that's just how she is. That's just her personality. But, like, people make fun of Laylee because she's small, she's got a big nose, whatever. So, like, I can see her, like, meanness developing as almost a defense mechanism. Like, she's gonna stand up for herself, so before anyone says anything mean about her, she's gonna beat him to it. She's gonna find what she can make fun of about the other person.
Yeah, that gives her good motivation, I guess. Like, I always just presumed Kazooie was mean because, I don't know, she's stuck in a backpack all the time. Like,
yeah, but she seems to like it there.
She does,
like,
yeah.
She stays there by choice.
Yeah, whereas Laylee has a nice, sweet setup. She lives on a pirate ship and has her own comfy chair and TV that's upside down.
Upside down TV, upside down couch.
Yeah, so, yeah. Anyway, Laylee's great. Dr. Puzz is a character that's also grown on me quite a bit.
Oh, she's so amazing.
Talk about Yooka-Laylee and the Cracklestone. I feel like having the time to develop in that as well has done wonders for the way I perceive her and others perceive her.
Actually opened it up today again to look through it before this, and I hadn't looked at it in a couple years, and gosh, the expressions that she has on some of the pages are just so fun. She's got the, like, good mad scientist energy to her, where she's like a positive, but also still kind of insane scientific force.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cracklestone does so much for the cast, just giving them, like Yooka-Laylee, the first game, has a solid foundation, and Cracklestone just adds the finishing touches on everyone's character. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He does it for characters who needed it, like Dr. Puzz and Dr. Quack. Like, Capital B's barely in it, but he has plenty of time to shine in the actual game, so, like, he didn't need it as much.
Yeah. So, like, the thing I like about Dr. Puzz is, one, like, when we look at, like, the XP characters from Yooka-Laylee, that, you know, comparing them to Banjo-Kazooie, Dr. Puzz is completely different than Mumbo, like using science rather than magic. And also the fact that we have a scientist character that isn't villainous or doesn't start as villainous, you know, which is so often so many mad scientists in the DKU. You know, Baron K. Rulenstein, Klungo, Dr. Crackpot, and then, the Professor, and now Dr. Doolittle Good. And it's just like, no, we have a science as a force for good, for a change. I guess Cranky was the only, positive example of that, but he's still, you know, he's still a bastard. So, but Dr. Puzz, you know, as said, like, stuck to her principles. Dr. Quack, another villainous mad scientist, but in the same game, you know, sold out. And if we accept the Platonic sphere of canonicity as canon to the rest of the DKU, which we here at DK Vine do, of course, she has finally provided poor Royston a stable, loving home where he no longer has to fear about being barbecued and eaten and abused, stuck in a haunted mansion, hit with a golf club. He doesn't have to...
Has she ever acknowledged him in there?
Doesn't matter.
Yes, I can't remember exactly, but I feel like there was mention of her having a fish in there at least once, but not given a name or anything.
No, of course not. We couldn't have that. But, like, you know, he doesn't have to disguise himself as a piñata. He can just be. He can just exist and feel at home and safe. And it probably helps that, you know, spoilers, but we learn in Impossible Lair that Dr. Puzz is actually originally a sea creature who fused with human DNA rather than what everybody assumed, a human who fused with a squid or whatever. She is originally a squid. And so probably Royston has some kinship with her. And I can't wait to see what they do with her in the sequel or wherever she'll pop up next in the Platonic verse. It's exciting. Really, like, it's great after, you know, after we had Cracklestone and Impossible Lair, there's so much of the cast that I'm just in love with that I really didn't get on board with in the original Yooka-Laylee, but now I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to see where their character goes next, where they develop, and to see this continuity that Platonic is so clearly building. It makes it exciting. And unlike so many of these characters we've talked about tonight, we know we will see her again.
Yeah.
There isn't this game.
Talking about how good Dr. Puzz is makes me realize that we skipped over Humba.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we need to talk about every woman in the DKU.
Yeah. You're right. We don't need to talk about Humba. Anyway, back to praising Dr. Puzz.
Yeah. It's just, it's a relief to know that at least some of these characters aren't at risk for, like, oh, we may see them in the next game. We may not see them for 15 years. You know, none of that. No, Platonic is having fruitful output, and they seem to love their characters and their creations, and they seem to love, evolving them. So.
Yeah, pretty much.
Speaking of characters who aren't on the list, I see that we, forgot someone here. I don't know if you wanted to talk about Queen Phoebe.
Ooh.
I'll let you talk about Queen Phoebe. Like I said, we left some out just because I wanted to hit some of the bigger ones, and we all had specific characters we wanted to discuss.
There's so many. Like when we were making this short list and it started not being so short of a list, it was like, wow, there's a lot more of these than I remember.
Anyway, I just wanted to talk about her briefly because, well, first of all, I think her design is, like, really good. Like, I just think she's got such a cool, like, bee queen design. It's a bee queen is a very common, like, type of character that you would see in a lot of things, but she just has such a, like, strong interpretation of that trope.
And as I said, Steve Mails specifically said, how far he's come since designing Candy Kong with Queen Phoebe, in particular. So, that's kind of cool, a cool bookend when we're discussing the, women of the DKU.
Yeah. And, not to spoil the ending of Impossible Lair, but, there's some very interesting implications for the future of the Yooka-Laylee series involving her, given at the very end of that game.
Yeah.
So I think we'll see more of her too.
Platonic in general has taken a lot of... I know there were some complaints in the first game about it not being as good or expansive or what have you as the Banjo series, but I think one of the unceasing ways that it succeeds monumentally is taking notes of what went right and what went wrong with the Banjo games and doing everything much better starting off this time around.
For sure.
Creating the new cast of characters. So yeah, just a wonderful cast of characters that are much better put together. Not that I don't love the Banjo-Kazooie cast, but I think they've really knocked it out of the park here.
Well, and it's great to see too that Platonic, from the outset of their formation, when we had Chris Sutherland on the Kongversation way back in season 3, and first talked with him before we even knew the game was going to be called Yooka-Laylee or what it was about. Just this notion that they know, like, their long tenured fans, from the Rare days, how much we adore characters and like seeing them grow and how much that it plays into their work. Like they're going to continue to evolve these characters. They're going to pop up. You might not see every one in every game, but just like Rextro set out Impossible Lair, well, Rextro's going to be back, later on. We don't have to fear for any of these characters. This isn't going to be like it is with the Donkey Kong series where, will we ever see this character again? Oh, I'm scared.
Heck, Rextro's making a cameo appearance soon.
Right. Jitsu Squad. So.
Yeah.
So, it's just great. And yeah, Queen Phoebe, Dr. Puzz, Laylee. It's awesome to see. Like, I was disappointed when Yooka-Laylee, when the characters were announced and defined, because I thought maybe briefly that both Yooka and Laylee would be women, I thought that would have been a bold choice.
I remember those initial speculation.
Yeah, I thought that would have been a bold choice, or maybe you could have switched out, like, maybe Laylee could have been female and or Yooka could have been female and Laylee could have been male, but ultimately, whatever. I'm going to trust Platonic will get it right. And, I do like Yooka and Laylee as characters and wouldn't want to change them now anyway. So
for sure.
Before because we do have some calls to take. People were very interested in this, episode. Wanted to touch upon real quick, Sea of Thieves, and how Rare has, I think, done a really good job of portraying women in this kind of ahistorical haven set during or near the end of the golden age of piracy, where you have this like pocket realm that is the Sea of Thieves, and you have sort of an equalization of both like men, women, non-binary, like there's the spectrum of the Sea of Thieves, and nobody is forced to play by the rules of outside society. And really quickly, they have a lot of interesting women characters in the game. And I know all three of us play Sea of Thieves. So like, really quick, Lorena, who is also the co-lead of Athena's Fortune, we have Wanda and her twin sister, Wanda.
Wanda, yeah.
Briggsy.
Wanda the Warsmith and Wanda the regular Smith. Briggsy, who did not want to be cursed and now has a cool figurine up for pre-order.
Right, from the same makers of the 2D figurine.
Yeah. Belle, who's recently added to the game, but was one of the first characters we ever saw from it several years back. The Siren Queen recently is a major antagonist alongside Wanda, but not Wanda. Just a range of women
most of them named Wanda, yeah.
Yeah, range of women in prominent positions and non-prominent positions, like you have everything from tavern keepers and shopkeepers and clothiers to, major villains in the game and major quest-giving NPCs and it's not exclusively women in all these positions. There's men in similar positions as well. It's just women are equally spread across the Sea of Thieves. Ranging in prominence, but no less important than their male counterparts, and I think that's lovely.
It is, and it feels like so refreshing when you play it, because it does, even today, like I say, it's atypical for the time period it's set in. It's atypical today. I mean, in modern day, so it is refreshing to have this kind of enclave, that everybody can escape to, even with our troubling modern times. And it's really great that Rare put as much thought into it as they did, and hasn't made any missteps there as far as the representation goes. And I think a large. What's that?
There's very conscious about that sort of thing. These days, modern Rare is.
And I think a large part of that is modern Rare is no longer the boys club that old Rare used to be. There's so many talented, female devs at Rare. I know we all wanted to discuss some notable names too from behind the scenes of the DKU throughout the years, notable women DKU devs, because Rare was a boys club, up until a certain point. There were very few women, at the studio back, in the olden days. And we're not going to be able to name them all, unfortunately, but there are a few on our short list that we wanted to give recognition to. They all deserve recognition, but, I think we all wanted to, specifically highlight a few names here.
Yeah, we have praised Donkey Kong Country 3 a lot during this episode, and so it would only be right to give a shout out to Evelyn Novakovic, who did the majority of the soundtrack for that game, and also a decent chunk of the soundtrack for Donkey Kong Country 1, which a lot of people know about to a lesser extent, and also just general some sound design and sound effects and other things. I think did she voice Crystal in Star Fox Adventures?
Did she?
I know she did some voice work. I think Crystal was one of them. She didn't voice her in later ones. She voiced some other notable side characters in other games, but she was around Rare doing music and voices and sound effects and direction and other stuff up through 2006 or so. But went into an early retirement, so she's doesn't get as much recognition as some of her peers.
She did a good interview recently, the past couple years. Time has sort of ceased to make sense in the past couple years, so I don't remember when exactly I saw this, but
she gave an interview 5 years ago or 2 years ago or last week or
something like that.
7 hours from now. Yeah.
But yeah, where she just sort of talked about her early career in the video game industry and why she retired and went into other pursuits and stuff.
Yeah, and because of her lack of prominence online, like, Grant Kirkhope or David Wise, I think she's less known outside of Donkey Kong fandom. Like, if you ask just like general Nintendo fans, they probably say, oh, David Wise did all of the music for the Donkey Kong Country trilogy.
I have been corrected. Yeah. She wasn't Crystal. She was Joanna Dark.
Oh.
So.
There you go.
Equally prominent character.
Okay. But, I would say the Donkey Kong fandom, like those in the know, she's beloved inside of it. Like we all think very highly of her work, because I think her music pairs perfectly with David Wise's, and she's responsible for several iconic songs in that original Donkey Kong Country soundtrack that I think really helped set the tone of that game, that very unique tone that only the original Donkey Kong Country has, of kind of this sort of moody, earthy, naturalistic vibe. Like David Wise is like known for his like new agey songs, but I think Eveline really leaned into like this more ambient sound. Ambient soundscapes, and like Voices of the Temple is hers, right?
I think Simeon Segway is too, right?
And Crystal Caves, maybe?
Yeah. But yeah, I
don't know if there's like a track list of like individual songs.
No, they're not.
I remember having a trouble tracking down who did what specifically before.
Yeah, but like I think a lot of that like vibe of the early game actually is at her feet, and not David's.
DKC is good, and she did some of them. So
right,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so when we talk about like the famed composers of the DKU, obviously David, Grant, Robin, Graham Norgate, but Eveline's always up there, and for good reason.
Oh, for sure. If I ever get a successful Kickstarter off the ground, I'm going to see if I can get her for a couple tracks. Let's see. Another excellent shout out would be the wonderful Louise O'Connor, who we've already name dropped a couple times during this episode, who was the voice of Berri, who we spoke about, and is heading up development on Everwild currently, and has had a number of roles over the years at Rare on different projects.
Yeah, she
just has.
She
continued to contribute to awesome stuff over there.
She joined Rare for Conker. She wasn't she like on 12 Tales back.
I believe so. Yeah, and she was the one talking about it on Rare Replay.
Yeah, and I really feel like she was one of the first to really break up that aforementioned boys club at Rare, giving her longevity and just how far she's come at the studio. She's on par with Joe Neat now, as far as like heading up, a whole game, and she's very prominent person of importance there. And it's really cool to see like Rare's evolution over the last 2 decades, and how when Louise O'Connor joined the studio, she was one of the only women there, and now it's full of women. And I mean, we talked about trailblazers. I think she definitely has to get a special shout out for sure. And then I know we all wanted to discuss Daly at Playtonic. Yes. Because after her stint at Rare, I would say she almost single-handedly gave Playtonic a new public persona, a new public perception of what the studio was about. Under her tenure, as, community manager, she really got them away from the vibes that's, whether intentionally or unintentionally, they gave off that we're the real Rare here. We're making games you want us to make, there was that kind of vibe that some people got early on, during the tenure of the original Yooka-Laylee, like that whole release period. And she completely obliterated that, gave them this chaotic, silly energy that has really served it well, and people still associate with the studio even as she's moved behind the scenes on game development.
Yeah, I don't think anything's ever going to quite match her period behind the keyboard on the Twitter account. I'm just thinking of all of the things she's put out into the wild that I can't say on a family-friendly podcast.
Well, good thing you're on this podcast.
That's fair. I think she's the one who started the feet thing.
Oh, yeah.
Platonic.
Yeah, because...
she's the one who gave us the wonderful quip about Kazooie always being canonically pregnant.
Which isn't how eggs work, but okay, you know. Yeah, because of that, there are pictures of my feet on the internet now. So, or a picture of one of my feet.
Lovely.
Yeah, so we can compare them with K. Rool's toes when we do that episode. Who wore it best? Anyway, there are a lot of other women at Rare and Platonic who we can maybe spotlight in a future episode later down the line. Those are just three very notable names that I think, you know, in an episode that's mostly about the characters of the in-universe Donkey Kong universe, we would be remiss without giving a special shout out.
I've been a little quiet for a bit because I was looking for something, because I knew that Louise O'Connor recently got to do like an article, like a news article for like Xbox in general about like all of their Women's Day and Women's Month initiatives. And I tracked that down. So
nice.
I'll send it to you too. And if you want to maybe like link to that when you post this or something.
Sure.
You might do that.
Sure. Yes. So, yes. So what we didn't talk about on this podcast, you can just read about, whatever, you know.
But it's just cool that she got to write, like something that was not just like about Rare's things, but it's like an entire Xbox, like, article for like all of the different things that they're doing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And, you know, that's, Xbox itself, it's amazing how, you know, the brand of Xbox before, say, 2014, 2015 was still associated so heavily with the frat boy, dude bro kind of, vibes. And it's come so far in just the last 7 to 8 years during the period we define as the Renaissance of really expanding its horizons and being more than just that demographic. And yeah, so I mean, I really feel like I never felt at home with Xbox as somebody who is not a dude bro, really. And now, like, Xbox is my home platform, you know, more than any other console. So, and it's really cool to see, like, the changes, throughout the entirety of Xbox Studios, which, Louise's article gets into. So.
Yeah, they're a wonderful place to work.
It sounded sarcastic.
No, I'm being genuine. I'm right now.
Okay.
It's a good place to work.
Okay. Yeah. It just make sure there's no coercion happening there. Like you said that of your own free will. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Clippy is standing right behind
her. My paycheck does not depend on it or anything.
Yeah. Clippy does not have a gun to your head.
No, he's still, I did not release Clippy when I had the chance. I left him sleeping.
So we do have some calls to take. I just wanted to clarify, because people don't know, you can call into the DK Vine hotline whenever you want. It's open 24 hours a day at 1-202-630-VINE, VINE, or 8463 on your phone, because the numbers correspond with the letters. Anyway, it's a phone number. It's DK Vine's phone number. You call us. You might hear a weird disembodied voice. Just roll with it. They'll connect you. You'll get to leave a message. They'll hear a beep. You got 2 to 3 minutes. I think it's 3 minutes, to get what you want to say in. But whenever we announce a topic of an episode, generally call in, say, hey, here are my thoughts. We try to play them. You know, sometimes we get a lot of phone calls and we can't play all of them. Usually we don't get that many. And so we'll play them. Tonight we're playing them all. We got 4 calls to take, on this topic. And let's just start going through them one after another. We'll talk about each one after we play them. So here's the first call.
Hi, this is Joey. I saw you were doing an episode about the female protagonists in the Donkey Kong universe games, so I thought I would call in. One thing I wanted to give a shout out to, since it seems relevant to the topic, is the video by Transparency called, let me look it up real quick. What is up with Donkey Kong Country 3? Dixie Kong's gender trouble. And this is an excellent hour-long deep dive into a lot of really interesting Donkey Kong Country 3 analysis, and I highly recommend it. I think, Hyle, you've retweeted it, so I assume you've probably at least seen it. But yeah, I definitely recommend any of the viewers who like Donkey Kong Country 3 and want another reason to like it, give that video a watch. It has some excellent quotes. And I'll finish this off with a quote from the video. One could say that all three games revolve around three different apes doing about the same tasks, but approaching the problem from very different circumstances and receiving very different recognition for it. Donkey Kong had better be able to do this stuff. Diddy Kong couldn't ever compare, and Dixie Kong is just not expected to be there at all. The balance is completely out of whack. These expectations run counter with their accomplishments. Donkey Kong saves a pile of bananas, Diddy Kong performs mass genocide, and Dixie Kong ascends to heaven and gains an audience with God. Anyways, yeah, highly recommend that video. See ya.
Oh, thank you for the call, Joey. And yes, we actually already referenced it on this episode, but it was a fantastic video. It was my introduction to that channel. Gibbon, you pointed it my direction, and I was like, oh wow, this is great. So, and then,
they responded, those creators responded to the announcement of this episode, so maybe they'll listen to this. So,
yeah, true.
Hi, shout out to you.
Right now. We follow each other on Twitter now, so that's how online friendships happen. But yeah, it was great because they not only touched upon points that we at DK Vine have long bandied about, but also made me think of things I hadn't thought about, which is always great to see, it's hard to do, especially when it comes to Donkey Kong Country, to make me think of things I haven't thought about. That never crossed my brain. I was like, wow, I'm thinking of Donkey Kong in all new ways. Cause I think about it every day, every hour, like some people think about sex every 15 seconds. I think about Donkey Kong Country. So, yeah, definitely worth your time checking out. They didn't really touch upon the marketing of Donkey Kong Country 3, how it was marketed, especially in, the Americas, which we actually had a fun chat about on Twitter. But yeah, the fact that Nintendo of America obscured the fact that it was Dixie Kong's game. And they famously, the commercial was Donkey Kong Country 3 starring Kiddy Kong. And, not even bringing up Dixie. And then the print ad was this big muscle-bound gorilla with tattoos and nipple piercings. And it was just like, what is this? Why are you they were so...
The piercings did predict Trough and Scoff in DK64.
Yes.
I kind of want to make an indie game with a gorilla character that looks like the gorilla from that print ad and then convince you to count it as a further appearance of Kiddy Kong.
You're just as bad as Chris Alcock is trying to get me to think of things as DKU, and I'm like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, and we're both in positions to do something about it.
Oh, you think you are. You don't realize I am in total control of my destiny.
You say that, but I can access the back end of your website right now.
Okay, just because I trust you with that. All right. Anyway, no, thanks for calling, Joey. Yeah, definitely check out that video. All right, let's take the next call.
Hey, DK Vine, Rick here. I saw the tweet, and I just felt the need to call in and express my love just for a sec. Because, yeah, I think the DK universe, Rare made some of the best female characters. As a child, our family owned DKC 3, and I loved that game. I loved the overworld, and I thought Dixie Kong was super cool. You know, none of that, what execs would lead you to believe, oh, boys just want to play as boys or men. You know, Dixie was super cool. I love that they made a third game. They're like, Dixie Kong's going to be the main character, and it's awesome. Yeah, and I think she would have been just great for Smash, but, you know, can't complain. Also, Wrinkly, she's so sweet. How could you not love her? Yeah, that's all I got. Can't wait to listen. Peace.
Hey, thanks, Rick. Yeah, how do we feel about Dixie not being...
hear that again, like, from two guys, from you and Rick, like, obviously it's, like, easy for me to say what Dixie Kong meant for me as a kid, but, like, it's really cool to say, you know, guys say that they enjoyed playing as her when they were boys, and that it was cool to play as a girl, and that they, you know, didn't mind it, and that they actually enjoyed it, like, you know. It's nice hearing that perspective. And
it was honestly liberating in a way, because just having this allowance, like, hey, this is okay. Like, you don't have to worry about fucking, like, gender expectations of, like, you know, and it was just like, oh, this is cool. This feels right. I like this. Mm-hmm. But how do we feel about Dixie not being in Smash? Because, you know, we've had some time to reflect on it, to process it, and I know we at DK Vine weren't that upset about it because we got, I think, more unthinkable characters in it than Dixie in K. Rool and Banjo and Kazooie.
Like, if we were going to ask for the next character inside of our sphere of influence, I'd want it to be Dixie, but, like, I'm not dissatisfied with the roster.
Yeah, same. So, I think if they're going to add another DK character, it should definitely be her. And, like, I've heard strong arguments for, like, Cranky or Funky, and yeah, they'd be cool, but I think Dixie by far above either of those, just in terms of importance and maybe, like, the variety that she could bring to things with her hair moves and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's just the unfortunate reality that the Donkey Kong series has always been playing catch up with Smash. Like, the fact that we didn't get a second character in Melee for some bizarre reason. And then we got Diddy in Brawl, but Diddy was, like, honestly a game late, and then 4, whatever the hell happened there. So, like, it took to Ultimate to get in all these characters that we needed to get, and they were the dream characters, and so we missed out on Dixie, and we missed out on Cranky, and, you know, it is what it is. I can't be too upset about it. It's just a shame. I am glad that the purported plan at one point for Diddy and Dixie to be a tag team in Brawl didn't come to fruition, because would have done both of them a disservice, in my opinion, for them to be a tandem rather than individual characters.
I'm not sure I agree, but I see where you're coming from.
I mean,
like, I respect that opinion.
Yeah, like, if Dixie gets into Smash, I want it to be as her own character and not like an ice climber shtick.
Yeah, no, I totally respect that.
I mean, when
but
you
at the
think
same
about,
time, like, I like the ice climber shtick, and I wish there were more characters like that. So,
yeah, but, like, when you think about how Smash influences people's perception of characters, especially if they haven't played the original games, like, I think it is good because, like, Dixie and Diddy, you know, they are a couple, but by no means are they, like, an inseparable pair. So, like, maybe having them together would give people, like, a weird perception.
That's
when
a really good
they
point.
Definitely do a lot of things on their own, like, all the time.
And yeah, and the way Smash is the kingmaker, like, Diddy has a jetpack now permanently because of Smash. You know, so that's why I'm just so thankful that Smash nailed K. Rool in every respect. Like, oh, good. Like, you got into everything and you did it in such an appropriate way. Bravo, because now this will always be a part of K. Rool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, it could have been worse. I think if we ever get more characters in the next Smash, like hopefully the idea that we'll just get Smash Ultimate, but with more stuff down the line, on the next console, Dixie is going to be near the top of the list for characters that haven't been touched, that should be in Smash, but we'll see what the future holds. Thank you for the call, Rick. Let's take our next one.
Hello, friends. This is Pure Kong. I just told myself that I'd call in next time, and I'm glad to do so. Just wanted to talk about the women of the DKU, and just, I'm sure that you've had a lovely discussion on Dixie Kong already, and have had her discussed thoroughly. So let me continue doing that. When DKC came out, I was about 2.5. So when Kiddy Kong was in the spotlight, that was me. I was being seen there. And having Dixie there, Kitty's good, but he doesn't have the brains to figure out squeals on wheels or nothing. Dixie was the responsible one. Dixie was the one that could do it. Dixie was the one that had the ability to power through levels. And I don't know, I just found that really cool. Sure, Cranky was always there to reinforce the whole patriarchy, the idea that, she'll never stack up. But everyone who played sort of just figured out that, nah, you're wrong, old man. Let's beat you up at the end. And I thought that was really cool. I think that really helped me just in my developing respect of the other gender as a kid, not falling totally into the whole boys versus girls mentality and all that, just having this strong, confident role model. And I think that reflects a lot of Rare and the DKU's female cast, where female usually is something of a descriptor for them, but it's not their primary one. Like, I can't imagine any other female characters in Nintendo's cast really going up to a WMD and hitting buttons and going, I wonder if we'll hit something. Like, there are so many vibrant personalities that I really appreciate. And yeah, there are the things where, like, Candy Kong is, what if sexy girl but monkey? And then Black Orchid and her pinup of very sexfully washing a car. But I think that overall personality has always come first with Rare, and I just really appreciate that. I'm glad to see that extend to even some of their older designs, like the reimagining of the Dark Queen in the recent Battletoads. Anyway, that's about it, and it was pretty nerve-wracking leaving a message, so I'm going to leave you with that. Thanks, friends. Bye-bye for now.
Well, thank you for the call. Always great to hear a new caller, and please don't be nervous. It's just a silly nonsense show. You don't have to be worried calling.
There's just something inherently nerve-wracking about leaving a message. Like, I'm on this show more than I call in, and I still get nervous calling in.
That is true. I don't like leaving messages. I tend to become a rambling mess, a sweaty, awkward husk of myself when I have to leave a message. And it's usually something I try to avoid, but so fair point. But thank you for the call. It's appreciated. Another person vouching for how Dixie helped them view, I guess, this view beyond the stereotypical gender norms of our youth. Yeah. So that's really Dixie. Cool. Yeah.
Pierre said was that, like, characters, like, making an interesting character came first. And so I spent like an hour earlier looking for a tweet because I know there was, like, at some point I think it was Greg Mails, but it could have been Steve Mails. I don't know. But, like, this was like years ago, and I was just like, hey, thanks for making some, cool girl characters that I looked up to when I was a kid, and, they meant a lot to me. And, whoever it was basically responded to me saying, like, exactly that, like, hey, that's really cool to hear. We just, we want to make the most interesting characters, and, some of them will be girls, some of them will be boys. And I was looking for that tweet because it would be so relevant to this conversation today, and I just could not find it, but I know it happened. So I don't know, maybe it was like on Facebook or something. I don't think so. I don't even have Facebook anymore. It's been years, but
Yeah,
Twitter.
It's horrible finding old tweets.
I know Twitter has a pretty rubbish search engine. You can't really. It's like finding a needle in a haystack sometimes, especially when you know.
I'm sorry, I don't have Meta anymore. I guess nobody has Facebook anymore.
Well, it's still Facebook. The company is Meta, but
all right. I wouldn't know, but
anyway, I mean, I think like I mentioned when we had Chris Sutherland on the show for the first time, and that was like actually one of the things I really wanted to ask him, like, hey. It was pretty gutsy, Donkey Kong Country 2, like removing Donkey Kong entirely. And for the time, like having this girl character, in there, instead essentially. And like, what was your thought process? And he was basically very nonchalant about it. It's just like, oh, we just, want to do something different. Yeah, but I mean, I don't think they were like they were looking to change.
Refreshing, honestly.
They weren't looking to change the world. Like they weren't thinking like, oh, this will really help like topple the patriarchy. Yeah, they're just doing something interesting. And I was like, oh, like let's make her a girl. She gotta have hair. All right, we got one more call to take. It's after 1 a.m. here on the East Coast, and I feel myself fading into oblivion.
Oh, yeah.
So let's take this call, and we will give our final thoughts for now when it comes to women of the DKU.
Hey, it's Troy, longtime forum member, but first time caller. I'm here to talk about my favorite DKU female character and what she means to me. So, pardon me if I get a little rambly, but here we go. So, growing up in the 90s, there weren't too many female characters to play as in games, at least for me. The first one I remember was Princess Peach Toadstool in Super Mario Bros. 2, and she was fine. She could hover and maybe pull out a useful item out of the ground if you were lucky. But Peach didn't really appeal to me that much. My sister says we had Metroid, but I never played it and didn't learn about Samus until I was older. I didn't get to play DKC 2 and 3 until I was in college, but I probably would have loved Dixie as a kid. Anyways, the 90s were all about, like, girl power and how girls could be rad just like the boys. Girls could be active and get messy, and being a tomboy was, like, the ultimate way to be cool. And, like, if you liked pink or dresses or dolls, especially Barbie dolls, then you weren't cool and you were just a girly girl. So instead, I just said I wasn't into any of that stuff while secretly having a Barbie soap opera going on with my best friend. You couldn't let anyone know back then. You had to keep up appearances. So, being 5 years old and wanting to be cool, I latched on to shows like Sailor Moon, where the girls would fight and be awesome and have powers and could transform. And wouldn't you know it, Diddy Kong Racing comes along in 1997, and it not only includes a playable female character, but she's also wearing a Sailor Scout outfit. So in a fantastic leap of 5-year-old logic, I decided that Pipsy was a Sailor Scout and that she was awesome forever, and she left all the other racers in her wake. It also helped that she was one of the few racers in the game that didn't control like ass. It's true. So now, 25 years later, Pipsy is still one of my favorite characters. I know there's not a whole lot to her, but she was one of the first female characters I could play as and project my girl power badass fantasies onto as a kid, and it was a lot of fun. Anyway, thanks for taking my call. Bye.
Hey, Twy, thank you for the episode idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for vouching for Pipsy. I said Pipsy is still beloved to this day. People still hold up Pipsy as one of their favorite characters. Lo and behold, the call sack validates me. I'm not full of shit.
I love the Sailor Moon connection, and I love
that's
how
a really
well
cute
that
story.
dovetails with the whole Astro Mouse origin. That's great. I love it. That's canon now.
And also, the call brought up like an interesting point that like I hadn't really thought of was that the 90s. I remember like oh, to be like a tough female, you have to be like a tomboy or basically eschew any degree of femininity. And
I was still playing with Barbies.
I always was jealous of the Easy Bake Ovens. Like, I wanted an Easy Bake Oven.
Those too. They were great.
I was like, what? You're telling me that this thing where you can cook brownies is a girl's toy. Like, what boy wouldn't want that? That's bullshit.
I had one, but my brownies didn't turn out very good. They were kind of hard.
And yeah, like I never really had the desire to play with Barbies, but I admired the accessories.
Ooh,
you could really build like a whole like universe out of that.
I had one that came with a tiara, and she had fairy wings that detached and were like a bubble blower. It was great.
Yeah, you never really had that accessory.
I also had Ninja Turtles and stuff, but they didn't come with the. You didn't have bubble blowers and tiaras with the Ninja Turtles.
No, you did have some sweet ass accessories though with the Ninja Turtles. Like you could build you could have their sewer, you could have the Technodrome, and then the little digger modules coming out of the Technodrome, and
yeah, but bubbles.
Yeah, but you could have the pizza launcher, which I'm not just going to argue Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, but I lost
versus
all
Barbie.
those immediately. No, yeah, no, Pipsy's great.
Yeah, Pipsy's fantastic.
And
I really hope somebody at Rare is paying attention to this so they know that, hey, you're sitting on this gold mine of an IP, Pipsy the Mouse.
Yep.
Do something with it. So, wrapping things up, I wanted to have the two of you help me because you know my knowledge of gaming, of gaming outside of the DKU is very limited. I am an master of this area and really nothing else. So we talked a lot about a lot of the amazing female protagonists and antagonists of the DKU, but I was wondering, how does that representation and portrayal of women stack up? How does it compare to other gaming franchises or franchise collectives, shared universes, however you want to parse it out? Because I don't know. I wouldn't know. I only know through like ancillary, like secondhand, thirdhand, like opinions and from what I see. And I know like how it was in the 90s when, oh yeah, you had like Lara Croft who was sold on her sex appeal and you know, but, and you had Peach who was getting kidnapped all the time.
Well, Lara Croft is sold less on her sex appeal, but they've swung the pendulum to the other direction in that, like, her last couple of games have been described as torture porn. Yeah, you can die in some pretty gruesome ways in those. Princess Peach is still getting kidnapped to the point where when they wanted to have Peach be playable but still be kidnapped, they introduced the Super Crown to the series and let loose Pandora's box.
Oh gosh.
Can you explain that to me, because I still don't really understand that.
So in New Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo Switch, which is a port of one of the older games,
I'm confused. Art Gibbon, slow down. What?
There was a port of the Wii U New Super Mario Bros. Titles, which was New Super Mario Bros. U and New Super Luigi U.
I vaguely recall this. Yes.
They got a port to the Switch as one boxed unit, and it had some new features in it, including playable Toadette with her own unique power-up, the Super Crown, that turns her into Peach.
Why wouldn't they just put Peach in the game?
Peach Toadette
because
hybrid.
Peach got kidnapped as part of the plot line.
Okay, but Amber got turned into a ghoulie, and you could still play as her in Challenge 20. I don't see the problem.
Yep. Well, the way they decided to go about this was the Super Crown.
Because I have Peachette. Is that the name of it? Is that the name of the transformation?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Actually,
that's how the whole thing that we won't talk about right now got started. But
yep.
I have Peachette unlocked in Mario Kart Tour, and I'm like, what?
Wait, Peachette's a separate... Okay, no, we're not going to talk about this. But anyway, yeah. So Peach is still getting kidnapped. Lara Croft is still doing her thing. Other franchises have gotten better in recent years. You have stuff like River City Girls over in the River City franchise, where the girlfriends are now taking center stage and are kind of more popular than the leading guy cast at the moment. You have things like Metroid still going strong. Metroid Dread was probably Samus's most badass and empowering outing, and many moments in it seemed directly in answer to them acknowledging that they'd made a misstep in like Other M. And you have other franchises empowering the female character, like I mentioned Crash 4 before, where they kind of retrofitted Tanya and gave her a new sort of punk persona and made her playable. Or the new Ratchet and Clank that has a new female co-lead. Was that Ratchet and Clank? Yes, that was Ratchet and Clank. And just a lot of series doing a lot better about having empowered women characters with agency who aren't just set dressing or damsels in distress. So I'd say overall we're in a better place. It still needs a lot of work, but we're in a better place. So yeah.
Yeah, and especially with like the rise of like indie games and stuff, and the greater accessibility of like game making tools, people can tell their own unique stories, and that leads to like a much greater diversity and playable characters and the types of stories that are being told.
You end up with breakout hits like Celeste and stuff. So
I think it also helps too that I know there are still these toxic gatekeepers, or they perceive themselves to be gatekeepers, but I think the overall idea that gaming is this thing for boys is well and truly left in the past, where people know, no, like all people play games. It's not just this like it was in the 80s and 90s, where this is a toy we'll market towards boys. We're well beyond that, even though there are some people out there who I don't even know. I don't even know what their problem is, but
they're dumb.
Yeah, they're dumb. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I am proud in this regard to be a Donkey Kong fan, and to say like, hey, we, outside of, that time Candy tried to seduce K. Rool so Funky could put a boot up his ass, and some other, weird missteps, we have, been kind of ahead of the curve with this series. I say
so much because like, I think it's like out of character for K. Rool too. I don't think he would stop trying to destroy the Kongs just to get like horny for a gorilla. That's just bad in like every single way imaginable.
Yeah, it's a goofy end.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, thank goodness.
But anyway, sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. That is, like, we talk about what it says about Candy's character. What does it say about K. Rool's character that this, I don't even know. Thank God that wasn't his final Smash, right? Like, out of, we talked about Smash preserving aspects of characters and prioritizing them in later appearances. At least they took the right thing from Donkey Kong 64 and didn't just have him get horny for gorillas in his final Smash. And then, would have ruined him going forward.
Oh, God. That could have been a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that Rare was ahead of the curve in certain ways, especially with playable female characters. I will say that, as much as I love Rare and we've been talking them up a lot, that I always noticed a problem when I was younger, that they had like some really good like female main characters, but when it comes to like NPCs, it's pretty much like 90% that it was just going to be like, just a dude. Like any given NPC you encounter was just going to be like a guy.
A guy.
That goes for like the enemies, the characters you have to help, whatever. It's very like very lopsided gender wise when it comes to the less important characters.
A guy,
it's like when there was a character they didn't have to think about, they would just make it a male by default.
Yeah, or a guy's wife, like Mrs. Bottles, Mrs. Buggy.
Yeah, and there were a lot of not unnamed, but unseen wives as well. Like that was such a common joke. You got Klungo's wife, you got K. Rool's wife, who may or may not exist. You have the Lady of Games. I feel like there's even more too.
True, which is another reason that Sea of Thieves is great, because all of the background characters are just uniformly a variety. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, including TT and Captain Black Eye.
yes.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I don't know. I shouldn't have the final word here. What do you both want to say?
Oh God!
Like, they obviously, there's lots you can criticize about, pretty much any game that was made in the early 90s or the 90s in general or the early 2000s will have things we can look back on and say, like, that might have been a little iffy, but, like, I think that they were definitely, like, even back then, they were trying in a lot of positive ways, and they were conscious about, like, wanting to make some positive role models for girls, and, so like, it's not, right to praise them uncritically, but, like, I think that what matters is what people got out of it at the time, I guess, and like, I think we can attest to, people of any gender being able to enjoy Dixie Kong and how much that means, and the same with Kazooie, and I think that's really important.
This has been a File 2 production.
¡Qué rico!